CNN fake news. We there's a lot of camera for those that can't see. There's certainly like 10 cameras on us. This side's my good side. So what I was saying, Mohammed, is 18 people were killed. 12, all of them were of fighting age. All of them were male. 12 of them, Hamas and Islamic Jihad and Fatah, have mentioned were militants from their organisation.
So you're talking just to kind of step back again. You're talking about the protests.
Yeah, talking about the protests.
And those protests which were met with the resistance of the IDF.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're saying from that, this is
I'm saying of the fatalities.
The official statistics is that there were 18 people.
Yeah,
that
on
were
the
killed.
first day.
Fine,
on the
no problem.
Friday.
On the first day. Okay, fine. Let's take that as a figure. No problem. Yeah. Do you accept that should not have happened in a state that calls itself democratic, and that's aims to protect the rights of...
It is not democratic. When was the last election in Gaza?
I'm not talking about Gaza, I'm talking
about Israel. About Israel. I was like, well, they haven't had elections there in 12 years. We can't call Hamas democratic.
So I'm talking about Israel. So Israel calls itself democratic, which means that protest is one of those emblems for democracy, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So this, again... If it was protest, if that was women and children that had been shot,
so long as it's men, it's okay.
No. What were they doing?
What protesting?
No. What is Hamas called this protest for? And why did Fatah condemn? Why did Fatah? Okay, so
you've just said that.
Why
12
did
people,
I talked to you, not the cameras.
I apologize. You just said. I'm using your words. I don't want to get caught up. And like you said, the statistics. You said that there were 12 from Hamas and from Islamic Jihad. Yeah. Which that would suggest that were 6 that were not.
No. So six men of fighting age.
Yes, fine.
Islamic Jihad and Fatah and Hamas didn't claim, but they very easily could be militants.
No problem. But we know that from the history of Hamas and also other Islamic groups like it, that whenever they have an opportunity to claim people on their side, they do so.
That's
right?
not true.
No, very true.
That's categorically not true.
Okay.
What's been shown is whenever there is conflicts in Gaza, they will strip military uniforms from Hamas operatives that are killed and dress them in civilian clothes so they can claim their civilian casualties.
Joseph, you're an intelligent man. Whenever is a very generic term. Okay, so we can't say that in every situation where there's been casualties, that process has taken place.
No, I'm not saying every situation. I'm saying that there's evidence that Hamas do this.
Right, okay, no problem.
That's all
Even
I'm
if we accept that, right?
Yeah.
6 people, let's say, 6 individuals, according to yourself. I don't want to get caught up in...
Do you know what Fatah said about this?
Okay, sorry, to finish off the statement. 6 individuals who are protesting were killed by the IDF. Do you regret that?
So why were they killed?
So is it? Do you condemn that or not?
No, so I'm asking you, why were they killed? We have to have a conversation.
Because they were protesting.
Just because they were protesting.
Yeah, just like there was
30,000 people protesting. Why weren't 30,000 people killed? What was the difference between these 18 and the other 17 to 30,000, depending whose statistics?
We said specifically because we've got to focus on fatalities. Yeah?
No. So you're saying they were killed for protesting. So I'm responding to that and asking, why were the other 17,000 to 30,000, depending whose numbers you trust, why were they not killed?
I'll tell you the reason why. Depending on the size and the scale of the protest. Now, if you look at the first and the second intifadas, the first and the second intifadas in 1987, the first one, and in the 2000s, the second one. The second intifadas saw a much higher death rate of Palestinians of over 3,000 or 4,000.
Let me phrase it in a different way. Right, really, where were they killed? Where were the 18 people who were killed? Where were they killed?
So you're talking about the border, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the issue?
Okay, so
they should be
so
killed.
let me quote the Fatah. Let me quote Fatah. Fatah came out and explicitly condemned Hamas. They said Hamas immobilized. Hamas wants 2 things from the protest.
Okay, no problem. I mean, this is aside the question I'm asking.
No, it's not. You can't dictate the terms of the debate.
No problem. Go
ahead.
Go ahead.
So Hamas called a protest because they wanted to breach the fence, yeah?
Okay.
And that's why they've got all the tyres which they're burning, and you can watch the videos of Palestinians trying to cut through the fence and cut through the barbed wire, because the Palestinians Hamas want the fence breached. Now, why do they want armed militants who are shooting on Israeli positions to breach the fence? Why?
Who's armed militants?
So Hamas, your videos I can show you.
No, we're not talking about the armed militants here.
No, we are. We just said that armed militants of Hamas were killed.
No. We said 12 of those were killed. And then now I'm just focusing on 6 lives.
Okay, I'm saying we don't know if they're militants or not.
Okay.
But we're asking where were they killed? And they were killed they were killed trying to breach Israel's border.
Right, Joseph,
Hamas
with the greatest of respect, here we're in a forum of free discussion and debate. But it seems like what you're doing, I'm happy that in the beginning, okay, and and the people would be a witness to this. In the beginning, you did actually say, you condemned the fact that those people were celebrating the death of that man.
That happened in December. That was nothing to do with these protests, but yeah.
You said you regret that, or you condemned that. Yeah. Then you tried to kind of say that it wasn't the IDF that did it, or people among the IDF.
No, the IDF shot, but there were two people.
But there were some other people that were doing that, and you were saying that it wasn't the IDF.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying I don't know who they were. There were two other parties that's been investigated.
It could have been the IDF.
Yeah. It could have been, or it could not have been.
Then we talked about the deaths of those individuals in the protest.
Yeah.
The 6 individuals that were killed, and then that were not part of Hamas, according to yourself, not according to...
No. I've never said that. You're putting words in my mouth. I said Hamas and Islamic Jihad have claimed 12. Fatah have claimed some of the ones that Hamas claimed were their militants.
Okay, no problem. And then we said there were 6 that were not in that category. Now, all I want you to do here is I want you to realize something very important, right? For us to be intellectually honest with ourselves, and for us to be fair, and just like you were when you praised myself and Ali Dawah and these things, I want you to do the same thing. When we talk about not just the history of the first and the second Intifada, I'm not going to go beyond that because we're going to go into the 80s, the deep 80s.
But again, you're dictating the terms of where the conversation goes. And this is one of the things I really don't like about Speaker's Corner, is you get a big crowd of people and someone dictates the terms of the conversation.
I was just about to finish the question. You can ask me, you're free to ask me whatever question you want, as you have been. But I was just going to say that in those instances, it's very clear that the IDF have been responsible for the excesses, for certain excesses. And they have been responsible for the death of civilians. Now, what I'm saying is, that kind of thing, in my opinion, should be condemned very blatantly by people like yourself.
Okay, so I'll respond. When IDF soldiers don't follow protocol and kill civilians, they're hauled in front of the Israeli judicial sentence.
Do you reckon that works? Do you reckon that the judiciary in Israel, works in a systematic way so as to ensure the minority status of those Muslim Palestinians living within their own state and those living within the Palestinian territories? Do you think they do that?
So you're saying, I believe that they are incredibly, the judiciary are incredibly moral. They're always in conflict with the government.
So you think
they're always overruling the government.
So why didn't they overrule the government's positions on settlements?
So we're jumping around, but I'm happy to go to settlements. First and foremost, define for the cameras what a settlement is.
So what I understand of settlements is that when you're building infrastructure, and in your case, you're actually, not your personal case, but in the case of the Israeli government, they're building literally land and towns now. I see cities being built on land which is clearly not their land.
Okay, so let's go there. So you're saying not their land. So what is Palestinian land? Define the borders.
The Palestinian territories after 1967, is that what you're talking about?
You're saying that they're building settlements on Palestinian land?
My own personal opinion.
No, for the settlement claim, based on the settlement. So when you're talking about settlements building on someone else's land, what's the borders of the land that they're building on?
We know the borders. According to the UN, they say things like, okay, so we know about Jerusalem, that it's an international city, for example, that it doesn't belong to anyone in particular. And then when we talk about the West Bank...
Sorry, where does it say that? Are you talking about the original 1947 partition plan? Which was rejected by both the Israelis and the Palestinians?
No, I'm talking about, according to the UN, who does Jerusalem belong to?
So Jerusalem, according to the United... but then I'm answering your border question, so I'll answer that. But I want to know, first and foremost, what are the Palestinians...
That's part of it.
Okay, so you're saying Jerusalem's an international city, so anyone building in Jerusalem effectively is a settler. So whether that Palestinian or Israeli, they're settlers, yeah? If it's an international city.
So no, I'm saying according to the UN.
Yeah, so
according to the UN. According to the UN. Okay, so Jerusalem, Eastern Jerusalem. I'm not sure what the specifics, but I think Eastern Jerusalem has been designated as an international city or something of that sort.
No. Okay, so I'll tell you my
if I'm wrong. But having said that, the borders. There is consensus among anyone who's ever read international law that what's happening in the West Bank is settlement in a land which is does not belong. You have to give. So what in your opinion is Israel? Israel?
So I can give my opinion what Israel is.
Yes, please go ahead. Does it extend to Egypt and Sinai and Peninsula and beyond?
Nonsense. No.
No. Okay. Because you were talking about I'm just asking you, right? Because you and I both know that from a rabbinical perspective, a lot of rabbis have actually said that Israel is what extends from the Euphrates River to the Nile.
Which rabbi said that?
Many rabbis have said this.
Which one?
I'll send you the links. No
Okay,
problem. I'll
so
send
the
you links.
cameras, I'm not aware of any, Rabbi. What the Torah
What the
talks
Torah
about
talks
is the
about?
biblical territory.
Yeah,
it
that's
talks
the
about
biblical
between the
territory.
two rivers.
Rivers, right.
Not
From
the
the-
Nile and Euphrates. That's speculation on your part.
Okay, so
so
wait.
we don't know the rivers. We don't know. Some say it's one of the rivers in Sinai. I've forgotten the name of it.
What river in Sinai?
So I've forgotten the name, unfortunately, but not the Nile. It's not the Nile. It's a smaller
What
one.
river in Sinai? I don't know what it's called.
Okay, it's not very
The two
compelling.
great rivers.
But anyway,
you've got the Euphrates and you have the Nile.
it doesn't say great rivers. It says the two rivers. You're,
The Tigris and Euphrates?
no, it's not. Anyway, this is a boring thing for people.
No, no, what
but
I'm
just to
asking
come
was,
back, just
what do you see as Israel?
yeah, exactly. So,
So
that-
is it? Because now I don't want to go beyond 1948 and still talk about the Balfour Declaration because I would just say
Balfour
to you,
Declaration's got nothing to do with Israel's modern borders. When the
Well,
Balfour
actually, it has
Declaration,
everything to do
when
with it.
how?
okay, when the Balfour Declaration was put
When
in-
the Balfour Declaration was written,
Yeah.
Britain was not a sovereign power in that region.
what do you mean?
In 1917,
Okay.
Britain was not a sovereign power in that region.
But it was a colonial power.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Britain were awarded the mandate after the Ottoman Empire collapsed.
you don't
they
you
took
don't
the
consider
mandate.
that colonialism?
Britain took the mandate
Wait,
in
that's
1921.
quite weird, isn't it?
Listen,
that is weird.
Listen. Instead of just you're saying in 1917,
Yes.
Britain was a sovereign power over that region. It wasn't. They
I
got the
didn't
mandate.
say that. I said it was a colonial power.
A colonial power. It wasn't a colonial power either.
So
they
you
didn't
think-
get the
wait,
mandate
hold
until
on.
1921.
No, hold on.
They weren't a power there.
I know the mandate is something, but with the mandate, I start the clock when when the first soldiers went into Palestine.
Okay, that
British
was
soldiers.
part of World War One, though. No.
World War, yeah.
Yeah, they were fighting
Yes, it
in
was.
World
Yes,
War
it was.
One.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, this is so many tangents. We're going to get lost. You
The
asked me
point
about
being is
Israel.
They were a colonial power. Then they handed over land to the immigrants from
They
Europe.
didn't. Your history is wrong.
Tell me why it's wrong.
Okay, so we'll go through the history very quickly.
Well, let's go back Chaim Weizmann when he talked about Uganda being alternative.
Chaim Weizmann, no, it wasn't. That was the Uganda plan,
Yes.
which was actually part of Kenya, and it was Herzl. Nothing to
Weizmann?
do. Anyway,
Weizmann rejected it.
People can fact check.
He rejected one part of it, which is good.
People can fact check this all for themselves on the internet. What I want to say, which is really important,
Go ahead.
is your history. So Britain, when they wrote the Balfour Declaration, which was that Britain would support a national home in that region, didn't have any territory in that region. Yeah.
But they became a colonial power.
Yeah,
At least
few
let's
years
start,
later.
no problem. 1924, the British mandate to rule Palestine. No problem.
Can you ask this guy not to heckle, please?
Yeah, don't know. 1924, let's say. No issues, yeah? Let's say 1924.
Let's
Had it not been.
So Britain were awarded the mandate
Okay.
on the condition they honour the Balfour Declaration.
Okay.
Yeah. What was British Mandatory Palestine? What was its borders? Do you know? The viewers won't know either, so it doesn't matter if you know or don't know.
Don't tell me,
British,
don't.
British Mandatory Palestine was Jordan, Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank. Yeah.
Jordan. Was
Yeah.
Jordan part of that?
Jordan was part of British Mandatory Palestine. Britain said they supported a Jewish national home as long as it didn't come at the expense of anyone in that region. Yeah. So the first thing the
Here, I
British
fast forwarded to Chaim
So can I
Weizmann
just
and
can I
Uganda plan.
just finish?
And you said that it wasn't
can I
Chaim
just
Weizmann.
this is can I just finish my point?
Yes, go ahead.
So British Mandatory Palestine was divided. 70% of the land was given to the Arabs. The first thing the British did when they took sovereignty
Do you reckon
over
that's all right?
the first thing the British did when they took sovereignty of the land, when they took ownership of the land or mandate of the land, they gave the largest amount of land possible to the Arabs. The Jews expected
they're based
what-
it on population.
The Jews, yeah, I've got no issue with them doing that. I agree. Jews were a smaller minority population in the region at the time. Arabs were bigger, so Arabs got the majority of the land. What was left, the Jews anticipated as being the Jewish national home. Yeah.
Excellent.
But
So-
what? Let me just finish because you're talking about borders.
You are talking
You're
quite a lot.
Okay, fine.
No problem. Go finish your sentence. I haven't got a problem with you finishing. I think you're used to people just attacking you.
I am.
I'm
Actually.
not attacking you right now. I'm giving you a chance
That's good.
to
That's
say your
good.
version of
And
history.
thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
And so my version of history is the largest amount of land possible was given to the Arabs.
Give him a chance to say
What
it.
was left of the land was supposed to be a Jewish homeland. The Arabs who were living there and in the Arab world in general rejected it. A civil war broke out. The British couldn't handle the problem. The British decided after giving away a load of land to the Arabs, they couldn't control Israel, the West Bank and Gaza, and they gave that to the United Nations. The United Nations then took a vote on what to do, and they voted to
1947.
partition. Exactly, they voted to partition the land. Britain abstained from the vote. Britain was one of 2 Western nations that refused to vote in the partition vote. So
Then you
Britain
had 1948, the
Britain
creation of
didn't. Yeah, Britain didn't create Israel. The United Nations voted to recognise it, and then Israel declared independence very quickly. 8 Arab armies invaded,
Yes,
and
yes.
now we're getting to the border. Though you asked me about the borders. This is why it's coming around
Yes.
to. Israel was invaded by 8 Arab armies.
Where's 8?
Eight.
Count them,
So
count them. Yeah,
Arab.
Israelis tell them to wait.
No, I'm happy. I'm not if you got it.
Okay. So you have
Yeah,
Syria.
of course.
Having a history lesson.
We are having my
I
history
don't think
lesson.
the history is relevant in this case.
But he-
Yeah, it is relevant.
He's asking. We're talking about
Yeah,
the.
no, but we're coming to it. We're building a
The
case.
problem is that if one side dropped their weapons, there would be no war, and if the other side drops this weapon, every single Jewish person in Israel will die.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead.
And I'm saying this because 3 years ago I was relieved from my service as a soldier in the IDF.
Okay, nice one. So come here if you're a soldier in the IDF. Come and speak to us.
I'm not a soldier anymore.
Well, you were. Come here and let's talk about you being a soldier in the IDF.
So it's valuable.
Come here. You got experience.
Okay,
so
so
you got.
there's-
We have the leader of the Israeli
Jewish
advocacy
people.
movement, and then you have a former IDF fighter. Yeah.
No, not fighting. Instructor.
Whatever. You are working with the IDF. Yeah. All right. No problem. I'm happy to have you here. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to have you here.
Okay,
as well.
so for me, the issue is talking about the history
Reinforcements.
not being relevant. This is why because I've let you speak for about 3
You
or 4
have,
minutes.
you have,
right?
you have. You've
So
been very
all I
good,
was going to say
Mohammed.
to you is that why I personally believe that the history is incredibly relevant. Forget about Israel, like you said for a second. Forget about Forget about this whole Zionist thing. Forget about it. Yeah. Let's pretend we're in Speaker's Corner in 2100. Yeah. Well, 2100. Or let's say 2080. And let's do a little counterfactual history right now. Yeah. Let's do a little counterfactual history right now, yeah? Let us pretend that the Islamic State, or they call themselves the Islamic State, Daesh, or ISIS, or ISIL, or whatever they are, they were able to establish themselves a state. Let's just pretend for the sake of argument. And now they've got their own infrastructures, they've got their own parliament, they've got this and that and whatever. Someone he's now born into the Islamic State, and now this is fast forward to 2100. Comes over here in Speaker's Corner, and he's making the case for the legitimacy of the Islamic State. He starts saying, look, the Islamic State, yeah, expelled the Yazidis and these things, and he starts making excuses and these things. He says, however, you know, what is history doesn't matter anymore, because history of the past doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter.
That's what you just say.
No,
so
I
history
said
doesn't
to
matter
this
anymore.
argument it's irrelevant anymore because
Fine.
both
So,
have
I'm just saying,
history
Which
in the
means
land.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
We
it doesn't
want to
matter.
solve this
So,
now. We are
Whichever
sick
way
of
you say it.
Rota.
Rotem, if your great grandchild spoke to that person's great grandchild who's saying that the Islamic State is a legitimate
I'm
state.
saying I'm tired of burying my family, and the other side is tired of burying their
Okay,
family
no
as well.
problem, no
And in
problem, Rota.
2008, we offered 94% of the West Bank,
Rotem,
and they said no.
I haven't got a problem with what you're saying now. I'm just saying something
We
else.
wanna make peace.
But listen, Rotem, we might be you, right? But I'm just speaking here generally about a specific counterfactual history. I want your opinion on it, right? Your great-grandchild or your grandchild or your daughter, she's having a conversation with someone else who's now part of this Islamic State, or they were born in it, yeah? Or
You
the
know what?
Daesh.
If it was 200 years ago, I would say you stay. That's why exactly I don't come to Poland
So-
or to Germany and ask the Germans to give back my grandfather's
Okay,
house.
excellent. So the Islamic
But
State.
that's not the case in Israel.
So
My
the-
family has been in Israel since the Second Temple.
No, that's fine. Now I've understood your point, right? Your point is, so long as you win a country in war,
No, she's not saying that.
It's fine.
She said her family has been there for 2,000
that's
years
fine.
at least.
That's a fair enough point. If you believe in that, then you.
That's not
then
belief,
it's
that's
not a-
proven.
No problem. I accept.
In
if you believe, if you believe in that, that's not a problem. What you say then is you don't say I believe in a democratic or a liberal logic. You
No,
don't say
she's
that.
not saying that at all.
So-
You're talking about
I'm
the rights
saying
of
I want two
indigenous
states.
people. You're saying the Palestinians are an indigenous people. Yeah, that's what most Muslims will say. Yeah, she's saying that Jews,
So, yes, go
Jews
ahead.
are also indigenous to that land. I've got a friend, a very close friend of mine.
What we're going back to?
There you go.
What he's
No,
talking
I've
about.
got a friend of mine from Gaza. They lived there continuously until 48 when the Egyptians kicked them out.
Egyptians.
The Egyptians kicked
Yeah.
them out in 1948. Yeah, when the Egyptians
Okay,
conquered
okay.
Gaza.
I thought you were talking all the way back to the
Oh, no,
ancient
no, not
Egyptians,
Pharaoh,
'cause
not
I know you
Pharaoh.
guys- I know you guys do that.
I was different religion,
Go ahead,
different
go ahead.
people.
Different rulers, but no, the Egyptians kicked them out, yeah, and they had to go and do it wider Israel. All we're saying is, she said she supports a two-state solution, so she supports the potential for a Palestinian state, yeah. why
Is that what you
can't...
support as well?
So I'll be absolutely honest. I used to be 100% for a two-state solution.
support now?
Now I have, whether it's a one-state, two-state, 29-state, I just want peace. And whatever's going to bring
Okay.
peace about, that's what I support.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I
Okay,
come from a
good. Okay,
family
that's an
that
easy thing to say.
died.
I hope.
No, it's
I hope
not.
this
No,
can
I
be-
come
And I'll
from a
keep-
family that buried their son. I need to, every year I visit my
Well, a Muslim
my
family or
a Jewish family, and I have Muslim friends that bury their family as well. I go to my dad's grave, my uncle's graves, my friends' graves every single year, and I am tired of burying my family.
fine.
We are sick and tired of it.
But
We tried
with
making.
respect, Rocha, with respect. Like if we could, sorry.
And
if we
I
could-
agree with you. There are families that lost their dear ones on the other side as well, and
No,
we need
it's not.
it to
You've made,
stop.
sorry, Rocha,
Yes.
with the greatest of respect, you've made the Palestinian casualty, respective to the Israeli casualty, the exception and not the rule. The rule is the Palestinian casualty, and the exception is the Israeli casualty. If
have
you
a
look at the
question.
amount of casualties in the two intifadas, there were of an excess of 10,000 people in two of
Do you
those
want to talk
intifadas.
about the casualties that the German experienced in the Second World War?
It's nothing to do with. It's nothing to do with the Muslims.
No, but if one side attacks the other, then if the other side is stronger, the casualties on the
So
other
what's
side will
World
probably
War
be.
II and Hitler got to do with the Palestinian experience?
Okay, let's just say Hitler was bad, right?
Yes,
He attacked England, right?
Israel,
He attacked England. He attacked England, right?
England. Okay, yeah.
I'm right? I'm correct?
Yeah, all
I'm
right.
sorry, my English is not as good.
No,
as
it's good. Go ahead.
England fought back, right?
Okay.
I'm correct. So
Yeah,
far,
yeah, all right.
killed a lot of Germans, right?
Killed a lot of.
Germans, England,
Yeah,
right?
okay, yeah.
Germans also killed a lot of English,
Yes.
but England killed more Germans than English, right?
England killed.
More Germans than the Germans
I haven't
killed
looked at the
English.
stats. I haven't looked at the stats.
More or less.
Maybe. Yeah, probably. I don't know. Yeah, go on.
Some innocent died, right?
Some innocent.
Yeah, from both sides,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But still, Brits killed more Germans because the Germans attacked, right?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Now, I feel sorry for every single person that was born in Gaza, lived horrible lives with
good.
horrible government and corrupt government.
What government are
And
we
I
talking
do,
about?
but
The
at the
Israeli
same,
one?
no,
Hamas.
the
12 years
Hamas.
there haven't been an election there.
So do you reckon that? Do you actually
Let me
believe
just
that the
finish.
Israeli government?
Let me just finish.
Okay, sorry.
Okay? I was in Beersheba when we signed a ceasefire, and then 10 minutes later, there were 14 rockets fired at me.
Okay.
If one side
Those
dropped
little rockets
its
are
weapon,
fireworks.
if Israel
There's little
dropped
fireworks
its
that kill
weapon,
people.
How many people have they killed?
it
compared
was
to the
not
Israeli one?
fireworks, honey. I was there. I saw the fireworks next to me.
They're small rockets. There are small rockets.
There's
They're handmade
rockets that
rockets.
kill people.
This is the disgrace of the conversation,
No, it
because
isn't.
you belittle Jewish suffering, Israeli Arab and
It's
Jewish
not
and
even
Jewish.
the suffering part. It's if Israel
just said
dropped
that
its
the
weapon,
rockets
we
are
will
not
all die.
comparable.
And if
When you-
Gaza stopped fighting
when you
and
got-
wanted to
when you've
talk,
got-
the war will be over.
What we're talking about is a disparity in the military capabilities of two places.
We're not, because you make the mistake. You think it's just Israel and Palestinians. It's Israel, Iran, Syria. You've got major.
But do you reckon
pa-
Syria
and
it's
Iran
not-
are involved?
It's an Israeli-Arab conflict.
Do you
We've been
reckon-
outgunned and outnumbered.
I'm not even talking about
the recent
military.
period.
I'm talking about the fact that we
You're talking
have
about her life.
3
gives-
to
who
5
gives
terror
Hamas the weapons
attacks
they
a
use?
day. What do you want us to do with them?
Who gave Hamas the weapons that they fired at her?
Pardon?
Who gave Hamas the weapons that they fired
Let's
at her?
leave other countries aside.
No, Iran. It's Iran.
Okay,
Syria
let's
and
leave
Iran,
that aside
but
for a
not
second.
anymore.
What is your name?
Not
again?
anymore.
What is your name?
Mohammed.
Mohammed.
Nice to meet you.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Let's not
Go on.
talk about other countries for a second, okay? Let's talk about Israel and Palestine. Okay? Not Iran, no
We
America.
will not
just
to embarrass
us.
someone.
Iran and Syria are not
Let's
funding
leave them be for a
Hamas.
second.
Do not to
Do you know who was
embarrass.
funding Hamas in 1980?
So this is an
No,
age.
no, no. Do you know who was funding Hamas
You're
in
going to say
1980?
the Israeli government?
Yeah, the Israeli
yeah?
government
Yes,
was
Can
funding.
you show us the
fight
evidence?
back. May I?
Well,
for a
she
second?
accepts the evidence. Do
May I
you
for a
know the
second?
reason why they were funding them?
Muhammad, may I talk for a second?
No, you tell us.
Because they saw the PLO as the biggest threat. You see,
Why is that funny?
I find
no.
look,
Why is that funny?
Let me find that interesting. Let me tell you why I find that really interesting. Right? I find this stuff incredibly interesting because, you know, depending upon the particular time period, the narrative changes. In the 1980s, you were more concerned with Arab nationalism than you were with Islamism. So now it has to be the bad Arab, and today it has to be the bad Muslim. So the idea is this: the
So Hamas aren't bad.
the Israeli government. No, I'm not saying that they're
Hamas
not bad.
bad is for
but we
everyone.
do condemn the
For
actions
every
that they
single
do, of
person in
course. Yeah?
Gaza.
Like blowing themselves up and these things. I don't accept that stuff. But what I'm saying to you is
They're making people work to
what,
build
but what I'm
tunnels.
saying to you, generally speaking, is that the Israeli government has not been consistent in its policies, morally consistent. It's only been strategically consistent in the sense that it only funds those parties which it sees is beneficial to its own cause.
What
The
is
1980s,
and what if England does?
No problem.
This conversation just jumps from thing to thing. Can we just get one simple? Can we set some premise? She's just said she recognises a future Palestinian state. I will say, if it means peace for the Jewish people and the Arab people in that region, I support a two-state solution. So I support a future Palestinian state. Can you just at least say whether you support an Israeli state or not, just so we know who we're talking to?
Well, look. Me personally, I don't even believe that it can happen.
No, forget what I'm asking. What you support?
No, I don't support anything in particular. I don't support.
No.
Do you
It's
just
a cop-out.
argument for the sake of argument?
Well, I don't have to make a policy recommendation. I'm not a politician in the Middle East.
Then what the hell are you doing in Speaker Corner talking about a conflict which is ruining the lives of millions of people in that land?
Why do we
I'm
have to?
talking as a humanitarian who want people in Gaza to have good lives.
Guys.
And
Why
Hamas
do-
is ruining their lives.
Why do I have to make
You're
your solution?
shushing me and you're not letting me speak.
So I promise. Go ahead.
I just said this is not a conflict for other countries, okay? Let's leave America aside for a second, Iran aside a second, okay? We just had a year of 3 to 5 terror attacks a day in 2015.
Pardon?
2015, we had 3 to 5 terror attacks a day.
Who?
In Israel, we had 3 to
How do you
5
define terrorism? How do you define terrorism?
ramming sprees.
No, that's not what. That's not.
Okay, I'll give you a definition of terrorism.
This is how I feel. May I?
Okay,
Thank
please.
Yeah,
you.
go ahead, please. Define terrorism, please.
Okay, do you agree with me that 2 terrorists walked into a house and murdered a mom, a dad, a 4-year-old,
I'm
a
asking you how you
12-year-old, and a
define
4-month-year-old?
I'm asking
Do you
you
agree
how
with?
you.
Let me finish.
How you define terrorism?
Please let me finish. Do you agree with me that that's terrorism?
Yeah,
Murdering a
okay,
family
yeah.
from either side.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you agree with me that there was
So how do you define it?
Jewish terrorists as well who burned a family, the Dawabsha family?
Okay, yeah.
It happened,
All right.
right?
So how do you define terrorism?
Let me. May I?
Of course you are. You're
Thank
given
you.
the
But
opportunity.
you're constantly interrupting me.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we want to deal with that, we can't just sit down and do nothing because this will continue.
Death to Israel! Death to Israel! Death to Israel!
Are you going to say that's a logical reason?
Israel is not terrorist.
Israel's a terrorist. All right, guys, the kid. Your kid hasn't been killed.
You are the problem!
No, that was my dad. I'm sorry.
You're the problem! Hot-headed, ignorant people are the problem.
How do you define terrorism?
You've never been there!
Terrorism is any sort of violence that's based on
Get a political aim.
no. Based on political reasons.
Okay. Which is quite similar to the British.
Sorry.
British law.
State violence is completely different to terrorism.
Tell me why.
State violence is much worse.
Why?
Because
Oh, it's worse.
it kills huge numbers of people. When a nation carpet bombs, say Vietnam, that's incomparable to a terrorist like
Hamas.
Daesh in Paris.
Yes.
I would say Hamas are on the border of state violence and terrorism.
Because they
They've
kind
used
of.
both.
All right, no problem. So you're admitting that state violence towards civilian populations.
Towards any population
Towards any-
is more serious
Yeah,
than
okay.
terrorism.
No problem. It's more
Terrorism is usually used as a
Would
means
you
to
say-
terrorize.
No problem. Excellent. So would you say that it's more morally repugnant?
Would I say it depends on the context? So, for instance, when the British government and the Allies crushed the Nazis, that was state violence against the. No, listen, you ask a question, then you have to listen to the answer. That was state violence against the Nazi regime. It was brutal. It was horrific. It killed huge numbers of people, but it was, in my opinion, morally just.
Okay, so I'm asking you, when there is intentional.
It hit someone and killed someone.
I'm not going to say
You can't shoot
intentional
it.
targeting of civilians, but I'm going to say
You know what
targeting,
happened if Scotland
which is
did
known
what the
to kill
Palestinians are doing to
a
Israel.
majority of civilians
England.
over and above
If
combatants.
New
Would you call that
Jersey
terrorism?
shot
So,
rockets
no,
at
it's
New
not- it's
York
not
or
terrorism.
build tunnels.
So
Terrorism-
if you
and
know
North,
that
they will
when
know
you're
New
going to make
Jersey.
it,
Now,
you're going to
I
strike
agree
someone,
with you. What they're
that
going
that
to
strike
is
is going to
awful.
mean
And
that
they're
a
going to
majority
do
of
everything.
What does
casualties-
Israel do?
So
What does
many
it do? You're
things.
talking about collateral
You have
damage,
to-
yeah? Which is a
you
horrible
have
term.
a nice
Collateral
level
damage.
of
No, you are. You basically said where there's a military target, where there's a military target, and a large number of civilians are killed to hit that military target. That, in common parlance, is called collateral damage, and that's a horrible word to describe the death of civilians. However, What does Israel do in the situation? So you're talking about Israel and Gaza. Gaza City is densely populated. Hamas attack Israel from densely populated positions. So what Israel will do, so for instance, the United Nations has condemned Hamas for hiding and firing missiles from its schools.
Do you condemn the fact? You've made your point, yeah?
I actually hadn't, but so what Israel's solution to that is, and I believe this is a moral solution, is if Hamas is, say for instance, firing missiles on Israel from a apartment complex, what they will do is they will first drop flyers if there's going to be an incursion on the area in general. Then they will ring up the house if they know there's civilians in that apartment block and want all the civilians to leave. Once they've left, let me finish. Once they before they drop any, before they do any military attack, they will do a flyover. If they notice that there's someone there, they will do a knock on the roof, which is a non-lethal explosion above a building. And only on that point, once they're sure there's no one there, will they actually hit the military target.
Thank you for that. Sounds like very fairy tale-like and very
I
idealistic.
can show you videos. Okay, everyone can Google. Everyone can Google.
Joseph, you have your time to speak.
Okay.
So you said you can show me videos. I've just showed you a video of two Israelis.
And what's happening now in that case?
IDF shooting a target which is unarmed.
And what's happening?
And then in that
You say unarmed, I say I don't know. What's happening in that instance? No, but what's happening in that instance?
he's getting shot.
No, afterwards. What's happening now? No, now, today. What's happening now in Israel about that incident?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
There's an investigation. There's a military investigation into what happened from the IDF.
Okay, no problem. So what I was going to say to you is, the narrative I would like you to pay attention to is the narrative that says that upon Israel's inception in 1948, up until this period of time now, just a simple looking at the map, the Palestinian territories, will see a constant shrinking of the Palestinian territories.
Beautiful.
Hold on, do you mind if I just I allow you to
I'm having a hard time.
and that has been, for the most part, gained either through war and or through the settlements that are being put now in the form of Israeli settlements in the West Bank and other places. My point to you is this. My point to you is that isn't it patently clear to you, isn't it very, very obvious for you to see that from the beginning when you had things like Plan Dalit, where you had government documents, and they still exist to this day, that show that the intention of the Israeli government was to wipe away as many of the Palestinians as possible up until this point, so as to every once in a while, every 2 years, 3 years, bombard the most densely populated area in the world of civilian populations, which is Gaza, bombard it, knowing full well that this will kill civilians. Isn't that clear to you? And then causing that place to be seized such that you can't even bring things into it, and it takes certain things out of it, and a medical situation there has become dire, and the food situation has become incredibly, is at the height of, is now on the verge of being a humanitarian catastrophe. Don't you say that all of that, when you look at it completely, indicates to you that there is a problem in the policies of the IDF and of the Israeli government?
Okay, so can I respond and fact check each one of several of the points you made? First point was you claim that Israel's borders have been expanding.
Not expanding.
You said Palestinian land has been shrinking.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Israel has actually given away 70% of the territory it once held.
So
Did you
that's
know
not
that?
what- that's not what the map shows.
No, it's exactly what the map shows.
What are you talking about?
Okay, so you don't know.
Okay.
Sinai. So Israel.
Sinai was never Israel's in the first place.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's go through law. Let's go through the history of the conflict. Let's go through the history of the
We don't need
conflict.
to go through the whole history. You said Sinai. Sinai's part of
This
Egypt.
is why I don't like arguing. People dictate the terms. I respond to what you say, and then you say, I don't want to talk about that.
Joseph, come on. You don't have to get overexcited here, because here we're having a diplomatic discussion.
Okay, so let me
This is
respond.
not,
I know you're trying to patronise me and calm me down. That's how it feels.
You are getting angry.
I'm getting animated. Yes, I'm not getting angry.
Okay, but you don't have to say, oh my god. I'll let you talk.
I said, oh my gosh, yeah.
Just tell me at any point. You know,
That was out of order, Joseph.
at any point. If you want to talk,
I'm sorry if my volume is offending
Joseph,
you.
listen to
But
me.
can I just respond to my point?
no problem.
I'll
was
quiet
just gonna
down.
say, at any point,
Because I
if
don't.
you want to talk, I'll let you talk. Can I
Okay.
just finish one point, right? Now we know the two conflicts in Egypt, the 1967 conflict and 1973 conflict, which amounted to obviously Israel taking parts of Sinai away and then giving it back in 1973. I wouldn't consider, you're saying that Israel, you see here, it's the fallacy of equivocation. Because you said here Israel has given back 70% of land.
That
What
is-
he means to say is that Israel has given back 70% of land that it never owned in the first place.
How do you think states are born, Mohammed? How did the Islamic Caliphate come to
So what
stretch?
was the point
No,
about
no,
Islamic
listen, no, because it's a very important point. How did, say, the Mamluks or any of the different caliphates? How did they come? I didn't know that.
There was ones in Egypt and ones in.
But so how did they come? How did they come to expand and have so much territory? Because they acquired it in conflict. In most cases, states are born out of conflict, yeah, and borders are defined by war. And the victor sets the border. Israel. Let me finish, because I let you finish. Israel was victorious in wars that it did not start, and Israel acquired land and exchanged it for peace. It gave back the Sinai Peninsula. It gave back Gaza. It gave back parts of Lebanon. It gave back the parts of the West Bank. Yeah. Yep. And all in return for peace.
Say that last bit again. Say it.
Parts of the West
So
Bank.
go through the list again. Gave back Sinai.
Sinai,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which never was part of Israel in the
No,
first place.
how are states born? How did Britain come to have its part? How come Scotland is part of the UK?
Well, hold on.
No. It's a straight question.
Okay, so there was an Act of the Union in 1509 or whatever it was.
So the British and the Scots were fighting for a long time, yeah?
There was an Act of the Union.
No, but were the British and Scots fighting for a long time?
Whatever it was.
Yeah. States are born out of conflict. Most of the
It wasn't
Arab
a war that made
most of
Scotland part of the UK, by the way.
the British and the Scots were fighting the
Hold on.
Jacobean
Let me
Wars.
just- Hold on. There was no war that led to Scotland being part of the UK.
How come the British came to be in there?
But there was an Act of the Union.
Okay, fine, I hear what you're saying, but was Britain and Scotland fighting for centuries?
Okay, see, look, your point here is a bad example. Okay, I understand that you're talking about there was a time, okay, where, for example, certain countries were born out of war. Okay, I'm not saying that this didn't happen. And by the
No,
way,
that always happened.
Yeah,
That
no,
is the
that's
history of statehood.
Of the world. Okay, no problem. But what I'm saying to you is that what premise are you going with? If you're, do you believe you're a liberal Democrat?
No.
Hold on, please. Joseph.
Take the turn.
Joseph, I'm asking you a simple question, please. Do you believe in liberalism and democracy?
So I would consider myself to be more of a libertarian, but yeah, I consider I have some liberal values.
So you believe in
And democracy,
and
certainly,
democracy,
yeah.
so fine. I believe if you are true to a liberal framework from a philosophical perspective, you cannot say on the one hand that okay, I believe in liberalism, and on the other hand say, well, states are born out of war. Because then the counter argument will be, yeah, that's a reality, but it's not a morally acceptable reality from your perspective.
So stop defining what I believe, for one. Jewish exceptionalism is what you're talking about. You're saying that all the other states are born out of warfare, but it's immoral for Jews to use that same barometer, use that same measure for themselves. No, you're saying that if I think...
No. Here's the difference, right? When we had the League of Nations collapse and then the UN start, yeah?
Yep.
Then you have the international laws. So you've got 2 or 3 different departments here. You've got 2 or 3 different dimensions. You have your own philosophical framework, which is liberalism and democracy from your perspective. And then you also have international laws. International laws which stipulate...
I don't accept the United Nations.
Okay.
So it's a different conversation. The United Nations just nominated Syria to be in charge of chemical warfare, whatever it is.
We all have our...
Saudi's in charge of the Human Rights Council.
Me personally, I have my own reservations of the United Nations, no problem. But what I'm saying is that you can't say you don't accept the United Nations on the one hand, and the country which you're an advocate for, which is Israel, is not only part of the United Nations, but is a shaping country in the United Nations.
It's not a shaping country. It's the one nation that is continuously
It's the one
condemned
nation in
and
the
hauled
last
over
100
hot
years
coal.
which has had its country, maybe not the one nation, but it's one of few nations in the last 100 years which has had the benefit of being defined as a country because of the United Nations. It's interesting that he's saying...
I disagree that... No, that's
you
not
said
how
it yourself.
No, that's not what I said. I said the United Nations voted to recognise...
There was a resolution in 1947.
The United Nations does not have the legal power to create nations.
I understand, but in 1947 there was a resolution. From that resolution was begotten Israel in 1948.
Israel was created.
Had the resolution not taken place, then Israel would not be here.
What do you believe that vote was? Just so we can understand if we're talking on the same terms.
So from my understanding of history, throughout the 1940s and 50s, sorry, 1940s, the early 1940s, mid 1940s, there was this constant pressurization that the Zionist lobby was putting on Britain, to the extent whereby in 1943, I think it was, who was the guy in charge in 1948?
Churchill, Roosevelt.
No, it wasn't. It was what's his name?
What were we talking about? Sorry, I had to
The
text
guy,
him.
the guy from Labour.
Attlee.
Attlee.
Clem Attlee.
Yeah, Clement Attlee. He promised at one point the what do you call it? The Israeli state. Yeah.
Would be created.
And then he took a step back from that. At which the Israelis or the Jews got very, very angry, and then he referred it to a mandate to Palestine. So Britain referred the case to a mandate to the United Nations. I apologize. Yeah. So they referred the case to the United Nations. After when Britain referred the case to the United Nations. In 1947, that's when the resolution took place, and in May 1948 is when Israel was born. So here, what we're saying is, you're saying I don't accept the United Nations. The irony of that is, you're saying you don't accept an organization that actually had it not been in existence, had it not put in the resolution, Israel would not exist in the first place.
So do you believe the resolution brought Israel into existence?
I believe that without the resolution, Israel would not have come into existence in May 1948.
Okay, so I think we're saying the same thing. I believe,
Do you accept
so I'm just going to say what I believe. I'm trying to answer. My understanding is Israel came into existence when they declared independence. The United Nations has no power to create a nation. That's not its function.
I'm not saying it isn't so.
What they have
Remember we had colonial
the ability to do is to define global consensus. And at that point, there was global consensus to recognize Israel, and Israel declaring independence is actually
What
what
about
brought
the
Israel.
global consensus that we should have a Palestinian territories?
So, again, you're looking like you got me.
I'm just wondering because
I've never said. When have I ever said there shouldn't be a Palestinian state?
Pardon?
When have I ever said there shouldn't be a Palestinian state?
Okay, so you do believe in Palestine?
So I just said my outlook for the solution. My solution is that I don't know whether it's one state, two state. If the Palestinian state, let me listen.
all over the place.
Let me listen.
You don't know what you believe.
If a Palestinian, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe the two-state solution from the bottom of my heart with incredible passion until I actually started visiting the West Bank and realizing the reality of what that meant. Article 6 of the Palestinian National Charter says that any Jew that wasn't living there before the Zionist conquest, which most legal experts interpret to mean 1917, will be driven from the land, will be thrown out of the land, yeah? So you've got 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank, not ignoring Jerusalem, which you consider to be an international city. 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank.
What does the UN say about it?
Can I just finish my point? 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank will be ethnically cleansed. If a two-state solution means making 500,000
I don't
Jewish,
know how you can say ethnically cleansed.
because they're cleansed because they're Jewish
By who?
by the Palestinian National
Come on,
Army.
come on.
But they were living in peace
Listen, can I make a point without you like patronising and talking down to me?
under the Palestinians.
Let him say what he wants to say.
There are 500,000 Jews living there. The Palestinian National Authority, in Article 6 of their national charter, state that any Jew that wasn't living there before 1917 will be thrown out. They're thrown out.
Palestinian National Charter.
The Palestinian National Authority's charter, Article 6. Google it. Anyone can look it up.
What are you talking about?
So the Palestinian National Authority, the PLO, had a charter which they reconfirmed in 1967.
Hold on, are you talking? Because here, look, this is the kind of equivocation that causes me to be confused.
Okay.
Because your initial criticism was not to the PLO. You had a long discussion about Hamas.
I'm not singing the praises of the PLO. I think the PLO are a treacherous organisation.
Okay, fine. So what's the issue here?
The issue is that the PLO, or the National, it's now Fatah, have explicitly stated that they will, what I consider to be ethnically cleanse 500,000 Jews.
About ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
No, but that's
What do you call removing someone from a land based on their religion?
But hold on, because here, this is something which actually academically has been written about. And this is something, a term that has been used in conjunction with the Israeli operations. So hold on, because I find it really interesting, right? That you're using the term ethnic cleansing.
That's what would happen.
In conjunction, hold on, it's not what, you can't predict the future like that.
No, that's what the charter says. You can only go by what Article 6 of the charter
hold
says.
on.
And
No,
anyone
you
can
can't
Google
only go by this.
1967.
No, but hold on. You and I both know international politics doesn't work in that way, all right? You understand the basics of geopolitics. That if you had, for example, a Palestinian state with Jewish people in it, the moment such ethnic cleansing could even be conceivable is the moment all of the foreign powers will be involved.
That's what already happened when Jordan conquered the West Bank. They ethnically cleansed the Jews.
No, this is not correct.
That's absolutely correct. Jordan enacted a law which forbade Jews from being citizens of Jordan, which is why you have no Jews living in Jordan today, and you have no Jews living in Palestinian Authority-controlled areas of the West Bank, Area A.
What is ethnic cleansing? in Jordan?
Okay, if you've got an ethnic minority, or they can even be a majority, you have an ethnic group which is driven from a land because of their ethnicity.
That's not cleansing.
That is, you're confusing genocide if you're going to say killing. Genocide is the slaughter. Ethnic cleansing is driving someone from the land.
Not necessarily. It can combine the two themes.
Okay, fine, but I'm talking about ethnic cleansing. The definition of ethnic cleansing is driving people from a land based on their ethnicity.
You've just made a claim that Jordan ethnically cleansed the
the Jews. The Jews. When Jordan conquered the West Bank, they enacted a law which said that Jewish people are forbidden from residing or having citizenship in Jordan, which they then
that's
used.
what you consider.
Can I just finish my point? Can I just finish my point?
Yeah.
Jordan conquered the West Bank. Britain recognised it. It said the West Bank is now part of Jordan, and they banned Jews from living there. The Palestinian National Authority continued. The PLO continued this prohibition, which is why to this day there is not one Jew.
So if you consider that ethnic cleansing, so now you're saying a restriction on the Jewish mobility in and around the West Bank area is tantamount to ethnic cleansing.
No, I'm saying the reality today. Irrespective of whether you think the Israeli Jews should be in the West Bank or not, the reality is today they're there. And if you believe that, can I just finish? If you believe that the moral solution to the problem in the Israel, West Bank, Palestine, call them what you will, if you believe the solution is to create 500,000 Jewish refugees, that's ethnic cleansing, and it's not moral. It's not a moral argument.
Now you're creating a straw man.
It's not a straw man. That's what would happen.
If you believe that's a conditional that has no relevance to my position.
So the Palestinian National Authority's Charter, the PLO's Charter, which was reconfirmed in 1967, explicitly states this is what they're doing. This is not a straw man.
You're going back a good 40 years ago to make a point about what a charter says.
How many Arabs live in Israel?
How many Arabs
live in Israel?
You tell me, man. You're the Israeli.
Yeah, there's over 1 million, between 1 million and 1.6 million, somewhere within that range. 20% of the population are there. How many Jews live in Areas A of the Palestinian-controlled territory in Gaza and the West Bank?
Is that how you create?
No.
Why do they need to live there when they've created settlements there, my friend? They've taken the land over. What are you talking about?
They refuse. They're not allowed to live in the land. It's a continuation of Jordanian law. The Jews aren't allowed to live there.
I want to ask you a simple question. The settlements that are being built now in the West Bank, what is your stance on them?
So that's how we start the conversation. Perfect. And I asked you to define what are the borders. If you can tell me what the borders are, I'll tell you what my position on the settlements are. I tell you. Okay, so for me, there are no borders. That's the problem.
Okay. Now we understand your position. There are no borders.
Yeah. So what are the borders?
So is Gaza not part of it?
No. So why are there no borders? Why don't you be clever? Why don't you ask me why there are no borders rather than spooky? No. So what I mean by that is the 1949 armistice line. Do you know the difference between the pre-67 border, the Green Line, and the 49 armistice line?
Golden Heights and these things in addition.
They're basically the same thing. And so the 1949 armistice lines are the agreement with Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the agreement with Jordan was a temporary ceasefire. Yeah? Both Jordan and Israel categorically stated at the time of making the truce that this is a temporary ceasefire. Yeah? East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem never existed. There was no such division as East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem. Yeah, we can agree that.
No, we can't agree that.
Listen. No. We can't.
Hold on. I'm not talking about Jerusalem now because you've gone into a minutiae. We're talking about the generic.
East Jerusalem, the whole term, East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem.
What do you mean there's no borders?
Sorry, I didn't mean to spit. The whole agreement between Jordan created East Jerusalem. It created West Jerusalem. It created the West Bank. What's the West Bank of? It's the West Bank of Jordan. The East Bank is Jordan.
My question to you is, you've just made a statement that there are no borders. My question to you is, what did you mean by that statement?
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Go ahead.
Israel and the Palestinians have never agreed to borders.
So what does that entail? What does that mean?
So it means that they have to sit down and negotiate what the borders are. And for you...
Okay, hold on. Now we know, okay, as Thomas Hobbes says, covenants are but words. If they're not backed by swords, that's what he said, yeah? We know that in a situation, from an international relations perspective, where you have a stronger power versus a weaker power, in this case, no doubt, Israel represents the stronger power.
No, Israel is the weaker power. It's surrounded by Arab states that want to destroy it.
No, wait. No, they're not. No, they are not. No, they are not, bro.
Really? So
yes,
Israel...
Yes. No,
okay, we'll just do a quick little Muslim count. How many people here would like to see Israel gone tomorrow?
Hold on. Joseph, please. you're not an ignorant person, okay?
Thank you.
Egypt do not want the Egyptian government.
Thank you for the clarification. What about the Egyptian people?
Forget about the Egyptian people. They're not in control of anything.
No,
the
it's
military. Listen carefully. The Egyptian people are not in control of the military complex, nor are they in control of the government. The Egyptian government cannot be said to have a stated objective at this present time of wanting to destroy Israel.
And why is that?
Because they're in alliance with the Americans, who are in alliance with Israel.
No, but it was actually before the alliance between the American. Who negotiated peace? Who negotiated peace?
1973.
Who I think it was actually
Sadat.
Yeah, exactly Sadat.
Okay. So here, anyways,
And
anyways,
Begin.
yeah,
And they
Begin,
negotiated
yeah.
peace,
Begin.
and they gave away land. They gave away land.
It's not their land. Sinai was never
Okay,
part of
we're going round in circles
No, but
now.
you say give away land.
If you attack me, yeah?
Yes.
You attack a nation and you lose that
No,
war
I want
and
you
you
to-
lose
no,
the
no,
land.
Hold on. I like what you just said there. If I attack you and take your hat, which is a nice hat, yeah? If I attack you and take your hat, and then put it on my head, yeah? And then afterwards I give it back to you, I say I'll give him back land. I'll give him back your
If
hat.
you launch an attack
Your
on
hat.
me, if you launch an attack on me and take my hat and lose your hat in the
Listen, no
hat.
problem.
I mean, it's not going to happen. You're a big guy. It's like I can't even reach your hat.
No problem.
Go on, go for it. Go on.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Although the option is always available for MMA.
One thing I'm going to say, just understand that. Why do you guys always call out Tommy Robinson for violence? You stoop to his level. You're like, I'll fight you
you're right.
MMA. It's wrong. You like, be a bigger man. I mean,
We're just
excuse
using
the
it.
pun.
We're just using it to get views and subscribers, which we've achieved. Anyways, I was going to take a step back now and say to you, listen. It depends on the premise. I haven't got a problem with what you're saying. In fact, let me be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
If you say to me, I believe in not just war theory, I believe that, whatever, you take the land, you win in war. So fine. If that is your premise, that you take the land that you win,
I'm saying that's what's happened in history.
no problem.
Yeah.
That's a morally acceptable premise. If that's your morality, then you have not contradicted yourself. Do you understand? Because you're saying that if the situation is that you take the land which you win in war, then ISIS is justified. No problem. You and ISIS, and let's say the Native Americans have been expelled from their land and genocide has
How was
happened.
the Rashidun Caliphate? Did I pronounce it right?
Yes,
How
yes.
was that born?
The Khulafa Rashidun.
Yeah.
Expansionism.
And how did they acquire that territory?
No,
With sword?
This is what I'm saying to you. Listen to me
Yeah.
carefully, yeah? I'm saying to you, now this is another equivocation. Why? I am saying if you believe, right, in a war, in the land that you get from war, if you believe in that theory, yeah, no problem. Yeah? You can say that. However, I would put to you, even then, that the way Israel was born was not through war. It hid behind the colonial master of the United Kingdom, who then assigned that land to them.
Well,
so it wasn't your war that you won.
The last time we spoke,
hold on.
what did we speak about?
What?
We spoke about the King David bombing, yeah?
Yes.
Does that sound like Britain was the colonial power supporting the Israelis? Britain refused to vote in the vote, refused to vote in the UN.
Sorry, tell me what you mean by this.
So there was an underground force in Israel that was
Irgun,
basically the Irgun that were fighting the British, for Jewish independence,
Yes.
yeah? And so at that time, Britain wasn't supporting Israel. When it came to the vote at the United Nations, Britain wasn't supporting Israel. When do you think Britain was supporting?
In my opinion, it oscillated.
So when were they supporting?
So, for example, there were times like we said. I think it was Clement. It was
I don't know
Attlee.
what you're going to say.
But no. It was Neville Chamberlain.
Neville Chamberlain? When?
Yes.
That was before the war, mate.
Yeah, it was before the war. Neville Chamberlain, he wrote in a white paper in 1935.
Right,
Okay. In 1935, check if I'm right. So write Neville Chamberlain, see when he was in power.
Neville Stanley Baldwin, actually.
Neville Chamberlain, 1935, produced a white paper. The white paper said in it that the Jewish people were going to have their own land. Yeah? Basically that. Is that right?
37 to 40.
Okay, so it might have been like, when was the white paper?
Which paper? The Peel? There was lots of white papers.
When was the white paper? No, the one?
1936 white paper.
Yeah, it was in 1936.
Which limited Jewish immigration to the mandatory Palestine. That was the white paper.
So that is when it oscillated from. That's when it oscillated from the whole Balfour thing to the white paper.
So you're saying the white paper was okay? I can agree with that.
So what I'm saying is that the British policy, it oscillated between promising Israeli, or not at that time, but Israeli, the Jewish people land, and promising sovereignty and limitations of immigration to the Palestinian people because they saw that they were the majority, like in the white paper. Yeah, was it?
Churchill was the one that authorized the white paper. It was Churchill. It was Churchill. Yeah.
No, but then the white paper was repealed, and then afterwards, after all these terrorist attacks took place, the Urdun and these things, that's when you had. When did the King David attack happen?
I think was it
46?
1946. 1946. So the King David attack is not a coincidence. That the King David hotel attack happened in 1946, where this underground, you would call them terrorist organization, yeah?
No, I wouldn't.
Really?
Yeah.
So Urdun, a group of people that went into a hotel and killed 92 civilian individuals.
No, not
There were,
civilians.
there were 92.
No, it was a military base. It was
But
the
it was
headquarters.
English people.
It was the headquarters of the British military power.
So you're saying that's okay?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. You asked me if they're terrorists.
No, okay, exactly. No, hold on. This is very important now because here this we're getting to somewhere, yeah?
It's okay.
Begin.
Begin, yeah.
Begin.
Killed three
Menachem
sergeants, I think.
Exactly. Listen, Begin, how you ever say his name? Yeah. He was the leader of Urdun, no? He was part of Urdun. Yes, he was. No. Begin, he orchestrated a terrorist attack. In my opinion, we call it attack. Forget about the word terrorist, we're not going to use that word. In 1946, right before the mandate was referred to the UN, yeah? For the British mandate, the resolution.
The partition vote, yeah.
Okay. He went into King David Hotel. They went into the basement of the hotel. Forget about they called them, they didn't call them.
They did call them.
Well, no problem. They called them, they didn't call them. The Jewish library says they called them. Yeah? I read it. I read the Jewish library, the Jewish virtual library. I saw their account. Begin says they called them. Whatever, no problem. They called them, they didn't call them. In whatever case, they went into the hotel and 92 people died because of the barrel bombs that they put in place in the shootings that happened, okay? So, who were killed? Some 27 Palestinians were killed, and the rest were British people, yeah? Working in that hotel.
Jews were killed as well.
Okay, some Jewish people were killed as
So-
well.
so
I don't understand, because this is the thing. This is why I've come to you. I feel like sometimes you do have a bias. I come to you and say to you, do you consider that this was a terrorist attack? You're saying that they're not terrorists. Why are they not terrorists?
Okay,
Because you know what the interesting thing is, sorry, just to add to it, that this same Begin in 1946 who orchestrated this terrorist attack and who allowed 92 people to be killed, it was the same Begin that became the Prime Minister. Became the President or Prime Minister?
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister of Israel in 1948.
No, 1980 was it?
I actually don't know.
Begin.
Oh, sorry, Begin was 1980. Yeah.
But just on Begin. So
Begin, became Prime Minister. Okay. Now it's as if you have Osama bin Laden and the 9/11 attacks exactly like this.
It's a disgusting comparison.
No,
and
it's
I'll tell
exactly
you-
the same comparison.
It's a disgusting comparison,
Why?
and I'll tell you why.
Why?
In 1946,
Osama bin Laden becomes
in
the puppet king of one of the
Are you
Arab
interested
nations.
in the answer? In
Got it.
1946,
Yes.
what had just finished in Europe?
We're talking about World War II.
I'm talking about the Holocaust. 6 million Jews.
World War II and Holocaust.
Yeah, but I'm talking
okay.
specifically about the Holocaust.
Well, Holocaust happened in World War II. Yeah.
6 million Jews had just been slaughtered. During that period...
So you can kill other
Listen, please listen. The British...
And Urdun, by the way,
Can I just make my point? I let you speak and I didn't interrupt you.
Yes.
6 million Jews were slaughtered. During that period, the British closed the doors of mandatory Palestine to Jewish immigration. They limited it to 10,000 Jews coming in and increased immigration of Arabs. The Israelis...
So that part again?
So Arabs migrated en masse from Lebanon, Syria, the surrounding states into mandatory Palestine, attracted by the affluence that the British and the
I don't
Jews...
know about
Okay, it's fine. It's a fact. You can Google
No,
it.
no, okay,
it's
fine.
fine.
I don't know
This
about
is my perspective. This is
Okay,
the
go on.
Jewish narrative. In response to locking the door during the Holocaust, the Irgun started pushing hard back against the British, who were pushing hard against the Irgun. And the Irgun hit the headquarters of the British military, which was at that time in the King David Hotel.
Yes.
It was the military headquarters.
Jerusalem.
Yeah, in Jerusalem. I've been there. It's a beautiful hotel now.
Yes. Now it is down the renovated.
Yeah, and I'm getting soaked here. And in response, They hit the hotel. They warned them. They rang up in advance and say we're going to hit it.
So if ISIS warns
But no, you
the
compared
Intercontinental
you
Hotel,
compared that to
and say, look, we're going to do a bomb today.
You compared Osama bin Laden
Yes, I did,
flying
yeah.
planes into a commercial industry,
Yes.
killing 2,000 civilians
Yes.
as an equivalency to
Well,
Jews.
he wasn't there
Jews
himself.
responding to the
Oh, yes.
Holocaust. Responding to the
actually
Holocaust.
3,000.
The Jews responded 3,000. Sorry, responding to the Holocaust.
7-7. We've got 50 people there, by the way.
Responding to the Holocaust
7-7.
and trying to increase Jewish immigration into a land.
So you're saying just because they're responding to the
I'm
Holocaust,
saying
they
this.
can do that?
No, I'm saying it's.
And by the way, for
two
your
military
information-
forces
for your
hitting each other.
for your
It's
information-
two military forces
No,
attacking each
no,
other.
it's not two military forces. It's a hotel, which means people are
It's
living
not a
there.
hotel. There was no.
You just said it was a King David hotel.
It wasn't a hotel. The British took over it and made it a military base.
But were civilians killed?
No, only people that were working for the British government. So you would call them
Hold on.
civil servants?
No, yeah. So a civil servant can be killed.
No, not at all.
Sorry, man.
No,
This is
it's
ridiculous,
not-
man. This is ridiculous.
Okay.
You have to. You have
If
to.
you
look.
have two.
Is it? Come on, man. Sorry, I apologize. I apologize.
Try and be respectful.
No,
I'm not
I-
laughing in your face.
No,
I'm trying to be respectful.
No, it is funny. It was funny. No, sorry, I apologize. Okay. I want to say.
No.
Go ahead.
If you have two military forces, the Irgun, the Israeli military force, and the British, who are fighting each other, and they're hitting, the British are killing Irgun fighters, and the Irgun are responding by killing British fighters, that is not a terror attack. That is two military
Well, hold
forces
on, they're not military
fighting.
forces. Irgun was not even
It
recognized by
was
the
a paramilitary.
what's that one?
Haganah.
Haganah. The Haganah condemned the attacks. So I don't know why you can't do the same thing.
No, so the Haganah, okay, so you have to understand Jewish politics at the time.
Well, I'm telling you,
there
the
was fierce
Haganah
opposition between.
clearly, yes, the Haganah were differentiated from the Irgun. Yeah, the Haganah, they condemned the attacks.
I want to say one thing really, really clear. I don't support any violence, but you asked me if they're terrorists, and I said no.
Okay, no problem. But you accepted that was you justified the attack.
No, I gave the context of the attack and said it's
No,
incomparable to 9/11, where
Why is it
religion.
577 then?
So it's completely incomparable.
So why? Because it was a hotel?
Because you've got two military forces fighting versus a military
no
terrorist
problem.
attacking civilians.
I've got a good question for you then. I've got perfect. I've got him where I want him. This is where I wanted you. Okay, that guy that killed.
Well done.
Hold on, no problem. What's his name? The guy Woolwich. Lee Rigby. Okay, no, that's it. It's done. Shukran, Habib. Lee Rigby. Okay, he was killed by I forget the guy's name. Yeah, that guy that. What's his name? Adebel.
I'm glad everyone else has difficulty
Okay.
pronouncing his name.
Okay, so Adebel Ojo, he killed Lee Rigby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Lee Rigby was a member of the British
Soldier,
military. Your premise was that okay, it's justified that the Irgun attacked the King David Hotel because it was one military force against another. The Irgun was not a recognized military force within the Jewish community. It was a splinter group that even the Haganah, they'd condemned. The Haganah was more mainstream.
No, so that, it was more social.
Yeah. No, by the way, and this is in the Jewish library.
Well done.
Jewish virtual library. They'll tell you
so
that
this is
even
on
they will
it's
agree
on
with
a
me.
website, yeah?
It's on the
The
website.
Jewish Virtual Library is a website.
No, it's a website, but it's respected by a lot of people, you know.
Yeah, no.
Anyways, having said that, so the Haganah, so the Irgun
Do you not
committed. Hold on,
understand
I
this?
haven't finished my
Okay.
statement. So here, what you've said is that you consider that not a terrorist attack. So do you consider Lee Rigby?
Okay, so let's.
Hold on.
Yes, I understand your question.
Is Lee Rigby being killed by that man, Adebel Ojo, terrorism?
Yes.
So,
Do you
what's
understand-
different
okay.
between Lee Rigby being killed
Absolutely.
and this guy is being killed, 92
So
of them in the hotel?
What was Michael's, I'm not going to try to pronounce his surname,
Yes, Michael.
motivation?
Political in nature.
No, but what was his motivation?
He wanted to kill the guy because he said it afterwards. He had the blood in his hands and he had the knife. He said that because you guys are in my country, the same kind of logic you've just used actually.
So what was my logic?
You said because you've been killed in the Holocaust, 1946, yeah, then it justifies XYZ.
No, so I
His
said...
motives were to revenge things that
Yeah,
happened to
revenge.
people.
His logic was to revenge
So
those
mine isn't about revenge.
Okay, so what was it about?
So, as I said before, Jews are being massively persecuted at this point. They've been persecuted in the Arab world. They've been persecuted
So
in the
is that
Holocaust.
allowed?
Listen. At that point, British locked the doors And if they hadn't locked the doors, millions of Jews could have been saved. We can agree with that, yeah?
Yeah.
The Holocaust could have been
Are
averted.
you talking about like the Evian conference and these things?
So
That,
I'm saying if Britain hadn't locked the doors
Their
on
own
mandatory
doors.
Palestine,
their own doors.
so Britain was awarded the mandate on the condition they create a Jewish national home there. Yeah, we agreed that. That was the Balfour Declaration.
Okay.
That's why the League of
By the
Nations...
way, they weren't in a position to, in my opinion, they weren't in a position like the colonial masters at that time were them in France.
Colonial master.
Yeah, they weren't. Well, do you not believe that they were colonial masters?
No, it's just the language. It's so...
What, do you not believe that they were colonists or not?
So
Were they colonists or not? Did they not have an empire? Was there not a British empire at that time?
So what time are we talking?
You said 1917, yeah?
So I said in 1917
There was a
the Balfour
colonial
Declaration,
office
but that
in
wasn't
Britain.
when the mandate was granted. Wasn't 1917 was the Balfour Declaration?
No, I know. The
Yeah.
mandate was granted 1924, yeah?
I thought it was earlier than that, but let's
Whatever,
go
it could be
24.
1924.
I thought
At any
21.
rate, Britain had a colonial office
It
in
was 21.
Parliament.
It was definitely 21.
No, until the
24.
40s or 50s.
When
yeah?
was Jordan created? Because it was the year after. When was the Emirate of Jordan? Come on.
1919.
No, it was
The
later.
Treaty of Versailles.
No, it was later than that. Anyway, dates.
Anyways,
Early
go ahead,
20th
go ahead.
century.
Yeah. Anyways, at any rate, the point I'm asking you is very simple, straightforward question. Like, this is why I think sometimes you do have a bias. It's like,
I definitely have a
started-
bias.
Okay, no problem. We all have a bias, but it's an unfair bias. You have a double standard.
I
would say.
don't have a double
I
standard.
do believe you do, because this is the thing. The
My
justification.
bias is this. My people have been slaughtered
Okay.
in almost every land we live.
Okay.
My only bias is Jewish survival. That's my bias.
Okay,
Whatever
no.
ensures
At the
my
ex-
people
but
survive,
even the
that's my
expense, and this
bias.
is why I believe it, at the expense of other people.
No, not at the expense of anyone else. That's what you've just said.
No,
you
because-
put those words. That's not my. That's
Okay,
not what I said.
no, I'm asking you.
You asked. I never said I supported King David for one. I
you
said,
don't support it?
No, I don't. So again, I said it's not an act of terror.
You justify it.
I said it's not an
So
act
the
of
what-
terror.
Libre is not an act of terror?
Why is it not?
Sorry.
Why is it not an act
Oh
of
my
terror?
God, we're just going round in circles.
No, it's
because
not. It's just that you're cornered.
cornered.
It's just a difficult question for you to answer.
Is the Libre Act a terror act in your eyes?
Yes, Lee Rigby is an
So
act
Lee
of
Rigby's
terror.
terror act
Why?
because they killed they killed someone from the military.
Because-
but then when Jewish people kill British military soldiers,
That's what King
the
David
same
was.
exact scenario is British military soldiers who are acting in their opinion in a colonial way.
See, he would say they're terrorists,
So
but you're saying they're
no,
not.
that's the thing, Joseph.
So you said-
Joseph,
he would
listen
say
carefully.
you- he
Joseph, sorry. This is an important question.
Sorry, it's really hard to
Here-
follow all of you.
In 1946, there was a terrorist attack. King David, Eastern Jerusalem, whatever it may have been. Yeah, and 92
Not
people.
it's West Jerusalem.
So West Jerusalem, no problem. And 92 people were killed. Yeah, of them many civilians, of them Palestinians, of them British people that had their headquarters in the hotel. Now you said
Was Mandela a terrorist?
that's a discussion.
No, because it's the same
No,
argument.
don't waste my time with this, man. We're not going to South African
what's the-
politics.
no,
Stop
no,
trying
it's
to
a
run
sim-
away from this.
No, it's a simple
No,
question because it's relevant
hold
to
on,
the
hold
news
on.
today.
Hold on, I'm not going
Joseph,
to
he's
talk
asking a
about.
simple
I'm
question.
asking you the
No,
same
and I've
question.
responded and replied to that question several
No,
times,
no,
and
no,
now
no,
I'm
no,
asking you a question.
no, no,
This
no,
is
no,
always
sorry,
the
sorry.
case.
No,
This is
no, no,
always
no,
the
no, no.
case.
You stated that the King David hotel attack is not a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
He stated
It
that
is.
do you believe the Lee Rigby
And I
Act
said
is
yes.
a terrorist? No, you said no.
No, I said Lee Rigby was a terror attack.
Okay, and King David isn't.
Wasn't. Yeah.
So why is
Well,
it- what's the difference?
This is
And
what
I
he's
just
asking.
explained. And I just
What's the difference?
explained.
What's the difference?
Motivation.
No, the motivation is the same.
No, it's not the same.
They want to establish
6
an
million
Islamic state.
Muslims
Wait, hold on,
haven't
let-
just been killed in a Holocaust, and Britain
Wait, hold
hadn't
on, hold
locked the doors to those Muslims
So-
to prevent them from getting in.
So hold on. You're saying the justification is the death of other Jews elsewhere.
No. I'm saying it's very, very black and white. Just like those in
But
apartheid
Joseph, do you see
Africa.
how that doesn't make any sense? Because that's exactly
Okay, so
that. Hold on.
Why
That
was
is
Mandela not a terrorist?
Hold on. Forget that's a different
No,
question. man.
it's you
You're
asking
the
me
one
a
who
Joseph,
question.
it's like you're
Why
trying
is
to
it when
jump
I
now,
ask
bro?
a question you don't answer, but
trying
you
to
can ask
jump
me
now.
the other question?
The thing is, we're talking about
No.
Arab Palestine. Now you're bringing South Africa.
But you
into
brought
it.
Lee Rigby in, so I'm bringing in something else, which is detached, and I'm asking you.
But you
a
haven't
question.
justified
So
your
why
side.
do you run away from the question, but I'm not allowed?
I will answer you. No problem.
Okay, please do.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm saying to you here and now. Yeah. If you're saying that what differentiates, because I'm just following your argument. You're saying what differentiates.
Can you just answer my question? I've answered every question
You
you've
haven't
asked
cleared
me.
this topic
you
up.
haven't.
You haven't cleared this
Yeah,
up.
we're not leaving the topic. I'm just trying to add more context.
I'm just saying.
So I'm asking.
Look, please, Joseph.
You can't just ask me. I'm surrounded by people who are hostile to Israel, for one.
If anyone here says anything to you, yeah, I'll give you protection. No problem.
Listen to the dynamic of the
I will
conversation,
give you
yeah?
protection.
Listen to, just
Okay.
listen to the dynamic of the
And there was an IDF soldier
Listen
here.
to the dynamic of the
There's a
conversation.
minute ago.
Listen to the dynamic of the conversation. I say something, then other people jump in and say, answer the question, do this, do that.
Because
I
you're
am
not answering it,
outnumbered.
Joseph.
I
That's
have
the
answered. I believe I've answered it several
Fine,
times.
Joseph, no problem. I'm just saying, you said that, I'm just answering your answer.
Why
yeah?
won't you answer my
No
question?
problem, I'll answer
Okay,
your question,
thank you.
right? I'll be completely honest with you. My knowledge of South African politics is not that good. Fellas, I can't answer the question because I don't know. There is a discussion there.
Okay, do you know the argument? Are you aware?
No, I'm aware of the fact that he took out arms and these things and all this. And he
who
went to
did they
prison
target?
And all those things.
And who did
now,
they
for
target?
me, I don't have enough knowledge of that department of South African
No, but,
politics to make a judgment call on that. So I'm gonna abstain from making I don't need to give you the
So
answer.
why do you educate yourself to such a depth about the Jews but not other conflicts like in South Africa?
Well, I do about
Apartheid?
South Africa. I'm not as.
I mean, that is what when people talk about apartheid, which
are
I've heard you talking about.
So that's a completely ridiculous thing.
No,
I don't have knowledge of everything, my friend.
No, but
are you gonna hold me to account for
I
what I
hear
don't
you
know?
talking about apartheid or like apartheid Israel. I've heard you saying Israel's an apartheid state.
No, I haven't-
So you
I
must
haven't-
have researched what apartheid is and where it came
Yeah,
from.
but look-
So then you understand what the conflict was, and that you.
What is South Africa?
Yeah, you must understand that
Yeah, I know
Mandela
the
took arms
conflict.
against the
Yeah, I understand
apartheid
that.
regime.
Yeah. No problem.
And what was it? Who
So-
did he
so-
talk? Why
look,
do most people say?
look,
no, can I
look,
just?
you-
Why did most people say he's not a
Why are we
terrorist?
talking about Mandela?
Changing the subject.
Because why are we talking about Lee
Let's talk
Rigby?
about Martin Luther
Why
King.
are we talking about Lee Rigby?
Let's talk about Malcolm
Why
X.
are we talking about Lee Rigby?
Because you're saying that's
Because
not
it's-
terrorist.
And
act,
I'm
that's-
giving
you're
an
accepting
another
it.
example.
You haven't given a
If you
context.
don't
haven't-
understand,
No problem.
You've been
This
hypocritical.
this is called
unfortunately,
bullying. This is
Joseph.
actually bullying. You basically.
We're just asking for logic, Joseph. That's all it is.
Okay,
So,
don't bully,
I
don't
see
bully.
how I'm being kind to
No,
you.
no,
I'm saying I'm
Leave
just
him,
asking
leave
for
him.
logic.
So you bring
Sorry to
Lee
say.
Rigby and I bring apartheid. Yeah.
No, that's not what happened.
No problem.
You-
No,
Go on,
fine.
go on.
Joseph, say what you want to say. Go ahead. I don't want to bully.
Okay.
I'm not bullying anyone.
No, it's not you as an individual. It's when you're outnumbered and out.
Don't worry.
It's only me.
Give him
Sorry,
1
I'm gonna outnumber
minute.
you.
Give him 1 minute to say whatever
That's
he wants
already
to say.
two, but.
So give him 1 minute to say whatever he wants to say. Go ahead.
Okay, so you brought Lee Rigby to try and provide context and comparisons, yeah?
Yes, yes.
To say, is there an equivalency?
Yeah, 'cause
and
it's
so,
something
so
that-
then I did the exact same with South Africa,
Yeah, yeah.
and you said, no, I don't want to talk about South
No, I didn't say I
Africa.
don't want to talk about it. I said my knowledge of it is not good enough for me to make a judgment call on it. On that particular topic of whether Mandela
why
was a terrorist or not. I don't know.
Why do you and so many other Muslims concern yourself so much with the Israel-Palestine conflict that you know dates and fatalities of something that happened over 80 years ago or 70 years ago?
Why not? Why do you know?
Closer to
Why do
home.
you do the same thing?
Why? No, because I'm Jewish. It's not ha ha ha. It's because I'm Jewish.
The South African
So I'm
conflict is no
Muslim
longer
as
a
well.
problem,
I'm
bro.
Mu-
That's in the past. It's no longer a problem. South Africa.
We're Arabs and
I'm
Muslims,
Muslim.
so it's closer to us.
What you just said doesn't make sense. Like,
It makes absolute sense.
I'm well aware of English history as well. I can give you the names of all the kings that existed from William the Conqueror until the present day, if you want.
No.
But
Every single
do you know, it's
person.
not-
Do you know
but
what
it's
it
not
is,
just-
Mohammed? Do you know what it is? Every single Muslim in this part has an opinion on Israel-Palestine.
So what?
Very few have an opinion on Eritrea. Very few have an opinion on Sudan.
No,
very
I
few
just-
have an opinion
I
on
just-
Central African
I
Republic.
no, I
and, look, and it's because it's Jews involved.
No, well, I mean, I'll be honest with you.
It shouldn't be a religious
Maybe
war, though.
you're right.
You're shaking your head, but why? What's the
Look,
difference between this conflict?
Joseph,
Syria's bloodier,
Joseph,
Afghanistan's
Joseph.
bloodier, Iraq's bloodier.
Nice. You're right. Maybe we should. I spent some time talking about Rohingya. I actually went to Cox's Bazar myself, which is the border of Burma. Yeah. I tried to understand that conflict more. The Central African Republic, you're right. There's a lot of things going on there. Rwanda, it's not a Muslim country per se, but '94, the crisis in Rwanda is very much not in the minds of many people, including yourself. You have never mentioned Rwanda. You talk about genocide, but when was the last time you mentioned Rwanda?
So I don't talk about genocide. I talk about the Holocaust because that affects my
Okay,
people.
fine, but see here, the Holocaust affected your people. You've just given the answer that you're criticizing me for.
No, 100%. I'm saying my bias, and I've said it consistently,
Okay, no
is that I'm Jewish and I care about Jewish
So
survival.
then why are you asking me? Why
Because
is
you're
about
not
Muslims?
Palestine. Okay, so you're saying basically your interest in Palestine or the West Bank or Israel, call it what you want, is because you're Muslim.
Yeah, that's part of the reason. But also it's quite
But
interesting.
why is that important? There's so many
I don't know
Muslim
why you're
lands.
asking me about
Because
this.
there are so many Muslim
What's
lands.
this?
Because there are so many Muslim lands that
Yes.
most Muslims don't give a damn about.
Like
Palestinians get so much. Like if I ask most Muslims today to explain the Eritrean conflict, or to explain.
By the way, Eritrea is not a Muslim majority country.
It's got a large Muslim
Yeah,
population.
maybe about 70% Christian. It's Muslim.
I
minority.
thought it was like
No.
50-50.
No, it's about 30% Muslim, according to the official stats.
I'm Eritrean. It's 70% Muslim. But they,
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it messed up stats, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's Eritrean, so he corrected me on that one. But according to the official stats, it's like 70%. It's wrong, yeah? Okay, he's right. Maybe you're right.
But
But
this is
look.
my point. You can tell me probably how many Palestinians live in the West Bank. You can probably tell me so much about the Palestinians. You don't even know that Eritrea is a Muslim majority country.
No.
Which shows the bias.
This guy's what do you call it? He's Eritrean.
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
saying.
I'm saying, according to the official stats, he's not Muslim majority. That's what I'm saying. And who cares, anyways?
No, this is the point. My point is there's a disproportionate amount of interest in the Israel-Palestine.
Maybe I agree with that.
From the
I agree
Muslims.
with
Yeah. Muslim aid flows into
I
Palestine.
agree with that.
Into the Palestinian
That I
pockets.
agree with. That I agree.
And this is the problem
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
This is the
No
huge
problem.
problem for me.
No, you're
because
right.
there's only one Jewish country in the world, a tiny speck of land.
Okay.
There are dozens
That
of
I
Arab
agree with.
and Muslim states.
Joseph, on that point, I would like to declare that I agree with you on that point.
Okay.
Thank you. Now let's move on to what I was talking about before you segued into all these kinds of non-issues.
No, they're huge issues because we're
No,
talking about
okay, fine.
interest in other areas like
you're
South
right.
Africa, and I was asking why is there, if you can't keep up
But
and follow
Joseph,
the logic,
no problem.
that's
no
fine.
problem. But here's the statement I made, which you took a particular offence to, and I want to reiterate it, not just to cause offence to you, but to cause. So,
Not just to cause, you want to cause offence, but not just for that.
No, sorry.
Also,
not to cause offence to you, but I just want sometimes you got to throw the cats in with the pigeon. You got to throw the cats in with the pigeons.
Yeah.
All right, listen. My point is this: we're talking about the inception of Israel in 1948. I'm saying to you, and I've presented this counterfactual history of imagine in 100 years' time, someone from, say for instance, the Islamic State survived, and someone, the great-grandchild of the Islamic State came here and is justifying the existence of the Islamic State. And the person from the IDF, she said, she didn't really have a reservation with it. I was going to say to you as follows. If, I say this to you, the statement I made was that in 1946 there was a terrorist attack. In fact, there had been campaigns throughout the 40s by this group called the Irgun, which was a terrorist organization, and then it became absorbed into the country. It became absorbed into the IDF and the government, actually, the Israeli government. I said this was tantamount to, let's say, for instance, Osama bin Laden blowing up the
your comparisons are so crass.
Okay, fine. They're not for Osama bin Laden. Sorry, I shouldn't say this. Maybe the numbers are a bit disparate. So I'll say, look, 7
6 million Jews were just slaughtered.
No problem.
6 million
No
Jews.
problem.
There's no comparison between the
Listen. I'm saying to you,
Jews were fighting for their lives, fighting
you
for
are
our survival.
conflating the issues of Palestine with the issues of Germany.
No, I absolutely not.
Why are you
There
why are
was
you doing
mass
that?
Arab. There was mass Arab migration.
I'm not talking
there
about
was mass,
Germany.
there
I'm
was
with you on
mass,
this issue.
There was mass Arab migration into mandatory Palestine at a time when Britain locked the doors and Jews were slaughtered in the Holocaust. It's very, very clear.
What's that got to do with Palestine?
Because the Arabs were allowed to flow in and the Jews were locked out.
Why are you blaming the Palestinians?
No,
for this?
the Jews were fighting the Irgun were fighting the British.
So do you accept that? Do you believe that they were freedom fighters?
So I believe the Irgun were fighting for. I don't like the term freedom fighter. I don't like.
Were they terrorists or freedom fighters?
I wouldn't use either term. I say they were a paramilitary force.
And were they doing good or bad?
I think they were doing a mixture of things. There were Irgun people that did bad things. There were Irgun people.
No. But you see here, if I said the same kind of thing about Al Qaeda,
because there's no comparison
No, there
between
is
the
a
Irgun and Al Qaeda.
Absolutely is
The
a-
Irgun were on most of the Irgun fighters.
Why is there no
most of the
comparison?
Irgun fighters had just escaped the death camps of Germany. They just escaped
A lot of them-
Al Qaeda.
a lot of the
Al
ISIS
Qaeda are Islamists that want to conquer the world. There's no
Okay.
difference. There's
So
no.
you-
Sorry, there's no comparison.
There's no difference, you're right about
There's
that.
no comparison between the two. There's
no.
no comparison between the two. That's my friend. Assalamu alaikum. There's
Okay.
no comparison.
so you're saying
between
there's no
the two.
comparison?
If you think
I believe there is
Jews
a comparison.
fighting for their survival, and this shows the perversion
Why?
of your
the Haganah
outlook.
believe the same thing.
The
Are they
Haganah also.
Are they perverted?
Sorry.
The Haganah considered the Irgun a terrorist organization.
No,
Are they perverted?
The Haganah and the Irgun were in a power struggle, an internal power struggle.
No, but here, look, my position is that the Irgun which has become really Israeli government.
And the Haganah didn't?
Well, it did, but not in the same way as the.
What are you
the Irgun.
talking about?
But hold on,
Who
hold
was
on.
the leader
I'm
of the
not-
Haganah?
Hold on. Let me finish
was
my-
the leader of the Haganah?
Let me depends on what time you're talking about. Here was there one leader for the whole time.
Ben Gurion. Who's Ben
Yeah, he
Gurion?
was the prime minister.
And so who was
Yeah,
Menachem
hold on.
Begin? So both
So, yeah,
figures
okay,
and both.
fine. But here the point I'm making to you is as follows, yeah? if you're finding it so hard to call this organization, the Urgun, a terrorist organization, because they fought for Jews, basically.
No,
But you find it
not
so
because they
easy-
fought for Jews. They are Jewish terrorists.
Why?
Baruch Goldstein is a Jewish terrorist. Baruch Goldstein went in the cave of the patriarchs in Hebron and gunned down Muslims at prayer. That is an act of terror. There is a huge.
So
huge
what, going
difference.
into a hotel is not an act of terror and blowing people up?
It was a military base. It was the headquarters of a military force that
So
they were
it's okay-
fighting.
so it's okay then?
They were two military forces
But the
fighting.
civilians that died there and got shot down, is that alright?
Any civilian death is tragic.
Is that terrorism or not?
I'm explicitly
But they
saying.
had guns and they were shooting them.
So again.
So is that right or wrong? They were not even Palestinians. They were
We're just literally going round in circles.
But you're
We're just
finding it
repeating-
difficult to answer
Not
this
at all. I'm answering every time. You don't like my answer.
Your
There's a
point
difference.
goes back to Lee Rigby because he waited for him outside the military base. He came out of the military base.
So, and again, it comes down to motivation. Michael, someone says his name.
Yeah.
Michael wasn't escaping a Holocaust. Michael wasn't fighting for the survival of an entire
he fighting
people. He was fighting for the Islamic State. Well, no, I don't know if it was the Islamic State, but
It didn't exist then.
he was fighting for Islamism. He was fighting.
What reasons did he give after he did it?
Why is that funny?
It's funny because
why is that funny?
when he...
Why is
according
that funny?
according
It
to-
was religiously motivated. Religiously
It was
motivated.
politically motivated. According to him, it was politically motivated.
So
he came out, he said, he had a knife in his
This
hand.
is the problem.
He had his hands blooded, and he said, the reason why I've done this is because Britain is in these countries and that country in Iraq and this and that.
So you
It's
think there
exactly
was
the
no
same.
religious motivation?
Really, I believe, given the right context, sorry Joseph, but given the right context, you yourself might be tempted or swayed to do the kind of things that Erdogan were doing.
What are you talking about? No, it's just that's like me saying, "Oh, you might be a terrorist because you're a Muslim."
No,
It's
no, I'm
like-
not saying that
It's a
because-
disgusting thing to say.
No, no, no.
One, I'm a pacifist. One, I'm
You're
a
a pacifist.
One, I'm a pacifist. Two, I devote all of my time trying to build peace and bridges. That's like my entire shtick.
So how
I
can you
don't
be a pacifist that believes that there's no borders of Israel?
I'm saying the borders have never been agreed by either side.
So it's okay, the spoils of
No,
war
no.
go to either, so whoever...
When have I said that? See, you put
You
words
did
in
say
my
that.
mouth. No, I didn't.
You said that the borders are defined by the wars that are won.
So I'm saying, in the context of how nation states are born, that is the history of the nation
Okay,
state.
Joseph. So here, this is the problem. I want to say to you, listen. I'm not going to accuse you of being like, a Jewish supremacist. Because...
Well, you just did.
No, I said I'm not going to.
Yeah. Okay, fine. But
So I said I'm not going to because some of the Jewish community, just like we have some people of other communities, they say, look, actually, the Gentiles, they are not the chosen, they're second rate and these things, and we are
Who
the
says that?
chosen people.
Who
and
says that in the Jewish community?
You don't know that's
No, I'm asking you. Who says? Name one Jew that says that.
What?
What you just said.
The Gentiles are second rate.
Yeah.
Actually, it's part of the law.
Which
It's part
law?
of the Israeli law.
What are you talking about?
It's part of the Israeli
First and
law.
foremost, Israeli law is not Judaism.
No, I
So if you
understand.
can't make the
call it a Jewish
differentiation.
state?
No, but
So first point, they're not the same thing.
Hold
Yeah?
on, hold on.
No.
You said who said that?
Yeah.
I didn't say Judaism. I said Jewish community.
Okay. Okay, fine. You did. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. anyway,
He's honest, bro.
anyway, he's honest. He thinks that. Anyway, look,
Okay. No. Which Israeli law says there's not equality between Gentiles and
Gentiles. It
Jews?
doesn't use the word Gentile.
What does it say?
There is. You're telling me? Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait. You don't want to go this.
I do.
You don't want to go there, my friend.
I do. You just.
Yeah.
I do want to go there.
Are you telling me right now, in your opinion, from 1948 up until 2018, which is what, 60 years? It's exactly 70 years.
70 years.
70
yeah.
years.
Coming up.
In this 70 years, are you telling me that entrenched into the Israeli law at every given time and practiced by the Israeli government was an equality between Jews and non-Jews? Is that your opinion?
I'd ask you to give an example where it isn't.
No.
No, that is my opinion. I'd
Okay.
ask you to give an example of where it isn't.
I'm really happy you think that.
No, so give an example where it isn't.
This is,
No.
hold on.
Give me an example where it isn't. What Ethiopian Jews are Jews, and there's no difference in law between
this
Ethiopian
is
Jews.
embarrassing.
So instead of just insulting
I'm
me,
not going
give
to.
me an example.
Okay, I am going to give you an example. Here's the example. Example one. According to almost all mainstream left-wing news outlets like Haaretz, and I've made this point to you before, it's not the case that there's not been an inequality between Jews and non-Jews. There's not even been an.
I'm asking for a state law
Wait,
which
hold on.
discriminates
Let me-
against Arabs.
Let me finish what I'm.
Not what a columnist in Haaretz says.
No, I haven't finished my point. That's, by the way, my premise wasn't the laws. I said the laws and the government's actions. That's what I said.
So
okay?
give me an example.
So I'm giving you an example right now. At first, the law, okay, easy law, yeah? No problem. Immigration. A law was put down in the, I don't know when it was put down, that any Jew in any part of the world has the right to settlement in, in Israel.
Return, yeah.
And how does that
Right to
discriminate against
return.
the Israeli Arabs that live
Well,
there
hold on,
today?
hold on. Because that gives an enhanced immigration status to Jews over non-Jews.
No, so again.
Ah. I'm joking.
So again, so let's. You said Israeli Arabs, yeah?
They're not called Israeli Arabs. They
No,
don't call
they do call themselves Israeli
Who
Arabs.
calls themselves
Ishmael
Israeli?
Kaldi, a personal friend of mine who serves in the Israeli government.
Okay,
A Bedouin Muslim.
They call themselves Palestinians for the most part. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, really? For the most part?
The government called it Israeli Arab.
Yeah, the government.
So
most
it
part,
says which poll?
I've spoken to them myself, my personal friend.
Yeah, I've spoken to many
Go ahead.
thousands
Tell
of
me now, tell me,
Palestinian or
tell me.
Israeli Arabs.
Okay, no problem. I'm asking you. You give me one law. The right to what's it called? Back to
Right to return.
right to return law.
The right to the return,
It
yeah.
explicitly emphasizes that Jewish people have a right to return to, so they have a right to be in Israel, wherever they are in the world, over and above the right that would otherwise be given to a Muslim, for example.
So again, so you have to.
So it's religious discrimination.
It's not religious discrimination.
Of course it
First
is.
and foremost, you can be a secular, non-religious Jew and still qualify
Okay, so
for
it's
the right of
ethnic
return.
discrimination.
Yeah, I would argue it's an ethnic discrimination. I personally don't like that because it's based on Nuremberg, which was our definition.
So you agree that this is a discriminatory law?
No, so again, within Israeli society,
You asked me to provide one law,
So
now
I'm
I'm giving it to you.
I'm trying to-
What are you going to say about this?
so I'm trying to respond.
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead, please.
So, within Israeli society, there is not one law that discriminates against Arabs.
I've just
or
told you one.
any non-Jew. But they don't. Any Jew who lives outside of Israel is not a citizen of Israel. We can agree that, yeah?
Pardon?
Any Jew that lives
they
outside of
become-
Israel,
They have ability to become a citizen.
they have the ability to become a citizen.
Immigration.
But so do
Religious discrimination based on ethnic religious groupings.
It's a mouthful. So I'll try and respond to your response.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
any Israeli Arab or any Israeli non-Jew.
I'll give you another law after this one.
Okay, that lives in Israel has complete equality with the Jewish citizens. It's enshrined in Israeli law. If you've ever been there, I don't know if you've been to the area, you'll see
I don't think I could. I don't think they allow me.
Every single, if you come with me, I can get you in, and we can educate you on the reality rather than the propaganda you can see from Al Jazeera. If you ever actually went there, you notice all the signs are in English, Arabic, Hebrew. Arabic and Hebrew is everywhere. Why? Because Arabs are a recognised minority within, and all of their rights have to be protected. You have senior Arabs like Salam Gibran, who's the highest judge in Israel, who sends Jewish prime ministers and
You're
Jewish.
just
No,
diverting.
I'm coming onto it. I'm coming onto it. Jewish.
If you got land, you're not allowed to sell it or rent it. You're not allowed to rent it for more than 5 years to people that are not to follow religious.
It's not true, so I wouldn't use that one.
No, but now it's in the process of being repealed.
Get
Now
out.
it's in the process of being
Okay,
repealed.
you
Get out,
find
get out
your
of the
law,
NGO.
and your friend, there's no
I've
law
got
that
another one
says
for him
that.
after this one.
So-
but he hasn't even. Look how what he does. He asks me a question. Give me one example. I give him the example, and then he starts talking about some next.
You
matter.
said it discriminates against
Yes,
people,
it
yeah?
does. It's
The
a-
right to return for Jews. Do you know why it's there? Do you know what the purpose of that law is?
So get all the Jewish people who want. I don't know what the purpose of the law is.
The purpose of
But
the
what I can
law.
tell you
Can I give you
Hold
the
on,
purpose
hold
of
on.
the law? No. Can I give
Go on, go on.
The purpose of the law is that Jews have been persecuted around the world. They've been chased out of the Muslim world, chased out of
They haven't
Christendom.
been chased out of the Muslims.
Of course they have. Algeria, Egypt,
Well, hold on.
Iraq, Syria.
Well, hold on. They haven't been chased out of the Muslims.
They've been physically banned from Libya, expelled.
Wait a minute.
They have an island
They haven't
called Jarba
been
in
chased out
Tunisia.
of
They're
the
still
Muslim
there.
world. They have not been chased out of the Muslim world. Depends on what you're talking about. What country are you talking
So I
about?
just gave Libya as an example.
Libya, even Muslims have been chased out of that land.
Morocco's been great to the
Yeah,
Jews.
Morocco's been good.
I won't say any bad word about Morocco.
Even Morocco.
No, I'm not saying all Arab countries.
Even though
I'm not saying
when I
all
was
Ask
Muslim
him about
countries.
Tunisia. There is an island, Jarba. They're all Jewish there.
German,
in Jarba.
Tunisia, yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah,
so
and they're still
they've
there
been
until
persecuted
recently when they
as well.
bombed it.
Obviously, Joseph, as you know, the majority of people, when they
Yeah,
left Egypt and they left these countries, they left them, those countries at the times of the wars, 1956,
We get caught up in tangents. Well, I think we can agree that in some instances Jews were thrown out of Muslim countries, in other instances they were protected.
I'm sure you would be able to agree also that certain Muslims were kicked out of and Palestinians were kicked out of their lands.
So I would say in 2 cities I'm aware of, Lod and Ramla, and I can give the context of why, but outside of that, I disagree. That's another argument.
What does it read out?
But can we just
It's a whole law. It's a whole law.
What's it called?
It's a massive. It's like what's the law called? The actual law is called the Israeli Land Laws Amendment Number 3, 5771 in 2011.
So you're only allowed to give and
So basically, basically you're not allowed to sell land or lease for more than 5 years.
It's called an anti-Semite like something like that. It's on YouTube. And
is it Jewish?
Yeah, no, it says foreigners. So
But how do they define a foreigner? You have to find how to define
ownership
foreigner.
rights.
Can we say it like? Is it?
No, but let's stick with the right to return. So I'm saying to you
So
now,
can I just finish my
immigration
point?
status. Now think of it this way, my friend. Listen, Joseph. If please,
I never finished my answer.
Go ahead.
You asked me to explain it, and I'm explaining it from a Jewish perspective.
under the law, foreigners are basically whoever lives outside of Israel that's not Jewish or whoever's not a citizen of Israel.
not Jewish, huh? Okay, we're going to talk about that one. I like it. What's it called?
It's called it's one second, bro, I'll get the exact
Sorry,
name.
I'm educating myself here.
And
So I apologise.
And then, can I also say one of the
give you one law.
Israel Land
of
Laws
the
Amendment Number 3.
one of the things I don't like about debating in Speaker's Corner is as a Jew, you're always outgunned 1 to 100. Yeah, 1 to 100. Whenever you come to Speaker's Corner as a Jew, you've got 100 Muslims. So you just
Where's 100?
look
Where's
around
100,
you.
man?
Look around you. How many Muslims are in Speaker's
Come on, man, they're not
Corner?
here for you. They're not here to attack you, my friend. I haven't seen you for 2 years or 1 year and a half.
So to respond to your point, Jews have been chased and persecuted in so many countries.
keep saying
the
this.
right. You're saying that Jews haven't been massacred?
No, but that's not part of the issue that I hand.
I'm trying to explain the right to return to you. If you want to understand the other side, the other perspective, you have to listen.
Everything you say starts with Jews have been persecuted.
Yeah, because that's the
Like
whole.
and when you wake up in the morning, your wife asks you for some food. You say, look, Jews have been persecuted.
I'm glad that's so funny. I'm glad that's so funny for you. I'm glad, Mohammed, that you find that so funny. I'm glad it's hysterical that my people have been persecuted
That's not.
in every generation. We've been slaughtered by 6 million in the Holocaust. I lost family. My friends in the Muslim world were chased out of the
Stop
house.
this.
No, because you're laughing at me. You're laughing
but
at
I'm
Jewish
laughing at you.
suffering.
I'm not laughing at
You're
you
laughing at Jewish suffering.
Joseph, now you're. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm laughing at the fact you keep saying it. And I made the joke.
I'm glad
that
that's
imagine
funny.
you wake up in the morning.
I'm glad that's funny. I'm glad
your
that
wife is going
every
through the
single,
dishes.
every single Jew that's watching this will
on,
understand
come
your
on.
mentality.
No, man, because
Every single Jew
Muslims
watching
have
on
been attacked.
YouTube,
Blacks have been attacked.
every single Jew watching on YouTube
Rohingya
will
have
watch
been
you
attacked.
laughing at me saying
that.
that.
Rohingya?
Well, I think what's happening there is tragic.
Yeah.
I believe.
So why have you not said in one sentence?
I've actually- I've got-
Rohingyas have been abused and.
I've got a website dedicated to this, but you never asked me about anything.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Maybe we can work separately on this matter. I'm not joking. I'm only joking. To understand Israel, to understand the right to return, you have to understand Jewish persecution. Okay.
To laugh at Jewish persecution
No, I wasn't
shows that
laughing
you
at
don't
Jewish-
understand it.
What, was I laughing at Jewish persecution? Or
You
was
were
that
laughing at me taking it seriously.
No. I'm laughing at you continually using the same sentence starter. That's what I'm laughing at, yeah? Okay, so you were saying that Jewish people have been continually suffering. Go ahead. Let him, please continue.
So the right to
Get
return.
to the point, please. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Apologise.
Okay, so you laugh at me, then you dictate that I got to get right to the point.
No, okay,
Beautiful.
don't-
Let's just stick to the subject.
Mashallah. Such,
not going
we say
nowhere.
midot,
Joseph,
such
it's not going
character
nowhere. Let's
traits.
just
Okay, I
get back to the
apologise.
topic.
Go ahead.
To understand. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
No. You're gonna say this. You're gonna say something. I apologise. He wants to laugh as well.
No, at all. I don't want to laugh, mate.
No,
I
sorry.
don't want to laugh.
I apologise,
The thing
go
is, I back you guys up all the time. Literally, you personally will back up to the EDL, will back up to the far right, because I have lots of followers on my channel from the far right, and every time I'll come to your defence. Literally. I
No,
defend
but
you
I'm
personally.
not laughing
and to have
at-
you
no,
laughing
come on.
at me, actually, like.
Okay, I apologise. I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at the fact that you had the same sentence starter over and over again. That's what it is.
Okay.
Go ahead, Joseph. Go ahead. You're making a point. I'll let you talk.
So to understand the right to return.
Sorry, you know we got love for you. All like you like that. It's just funny, bro.
Imagine if you had a Palestinian here, yeah, Mohammed? Imagine if you had a Palestinian here.
Yeah, but we can say that as well. We
No,
can say what about?
Joseph.
No, and I think
like
Muslim
that, man.
suffering's really
Yeah,
important.
but
That's why I campaign against
Why would
Islamophobia.
you be angry? Let's smile and laugh about it as well. Boys, you're not
Don't
saying-
say to
Take it
understand.
easy,
Just
brother.
get into it. Go ahead.
So Israel, part of why it was born out of Jewish persecution. So there can never be another Holocaust. Israel, many Muslims believe that Israel was born because of the Holocaust. It's not. Like the Holocaust happened because there wasn't in Israel. Had Israel existed, there wouldn't have been 6 million Jews sent to their death. So for Jews, we believe it's essential that we have a homeland, so that we're not dependent on the benevolence, the kindness, the mercy of other people. So
But
it's
you
not,
are, though.
So it's not Muslims
But
coming
you-
to our defense.
but what's the
So
British
it's
coming
not
to
the-
defense,
So
wasn't
it's not. Can I just finish a point? It's not the Ottomans rescuing us from the Inquisition.
happened?
It's not the British rescuing us from whatever persecution we're experiencing in Europe. It's so that we can fight our own wars and defend our own people. And part of that is having a state where Jews can escape persecution.
So tell me, what's this got to do with the right to?
The right to exactly.
Joseph, just to repeat the question. I apologize. I've given you a chance. You just said to me, you made the very generic claim that actually there's no laws and there's no. I said to
That discriminate against Gentiles in Israel.
I said to you that there's no. I said to you both the laws and the actions of the Israeli government from the very inception of Israel in 1948 in May up until this time, which is exactly 70 years, have shown discrimination. Now, if you want to believe, I'm not saying you do believe this, but if you want to believe that Gentiles are superior, that Jews are superior. I'm not saying you believe in this, but I'm saying that if you want to believe as a man,
Mate, this is so offensive what you're saying.
I'm sorry, hold on. I'm sorry.
The right to return is based on Jewish suffering.
Let me finish.
Nothing to do with Jewish supremacy.
Let me finish. I said nothing about anything right now. I'm just saying that if someone, a rabbi, wants to believe that the Jews are the chosen people and that they have the priority to.
Mate, you're turning into an anti-Semite.
No, it's not.
Jews don't believe they're chosen.
And
Well, hold on.
he's a Semite himself.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just.
Okay, great. Now you deny the Jewish hate. Okay, call you Jew hater. You're turning into
By the
a
way,
Jew hater.
I did.
You're talking about rabbis.
let me
You're saying
say-
they believe they're chosen.
No, I didn't say. I said if. It's a conditional statement, okay? In English language,
It's
anything with
it's
if.
like me saying if a Muslim is a paedophile or if a Muslim is a terrorist. It's offensive language.
Well, you have used that statement before. You said this before, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I've never said Muslims are terrorists. And
No,
I will
no,
outright.
I've never said that.
I've never
Jews
said
are
Muslims are
terrorists.
paedophiles.
I've never said the same
You're
thing.
saying if a rabbi believes that Jews
No,
are.
I said if. No, I didn't. Look, the videos have got me. Yeah. I said if a rabbi or a Jew wants to believe that actually Jews are the superior or that they have right to the land, or that Gentiles are secondary, no problem.
Mate, who says this?
What you're doing is you're conflating two or three statements into one. There's a difference between, first of all, the idea of chosenness, which is nothing to do with ethnic or racial superiority.
Okay, so how does it come about?
Okay, so the idea of chosenness is...
Are you a rabbi?
I'm not a rabbi, I'm a religious Jew.
A religious Jew. Come in the.
And I... Thank you, guys.
Hi, my friend.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
Nice to meet you, Jeff. Hello, how are you doing? So, basically, there's this idea of chosenness. They say basically that we aren't chosen in the sense that we're better than everybody else. We're chosen to perform certain obligations, not just to ourselves but also to the rest of humanity.
But from my reading
Promote
of,
monotheism.
okay, you
To-
can correct me
to
because
spread
you might know.
as
You might know.
Joseph just said, to
Excellent.
spread
What's your-
monotheism.
sorry, what's your name?
Stephen.
Stephen, you might correct me if I'm wrong here because I don't know. Yeah, but from my reading of the Old Testament, it seems to me that the chosenness of the Jews is more than what you've just described.
So what is it?
So in my reading of the Old Testament, it seems like God chose the children of Israel. He selected them, okay? But not only this, that they are now not only the representatives of God on earth, if you like. Yeah. What's that?
By the way, this is Mohammed.
Oh, they're dancing there, yeah? Okay, sorry, there's some people there dancing. Go tell the police. Sorry. What was I just saying? Anyways.
You're saying that
So,
in the Old
in your
Testament,
reading, yes. So even things like this, God repented to the Jews. That God had a wrestling match with Judah. and lost.
Had a wrestling match with
say
Jews.
that.
It doesn't say that.
Jacob, sorry, Jacob.
And it doesn't
It doesn't
it
say
says
the God, it says
wrestle.
that it's an angel.
No, they said they wrestled.
It says
God-
a man. It says a man, and it says God wrestled with him.
God wrestled with Jacob and lost the match.
And he renamed it Israel.
Ishmael's a wild horse. Or a
You're
wild
reading
donkey.
English translation, but
No problem.
But this
But
has
we
got
have to
nothing to
deal
do
with the
with.
English translation because
For
What
me,
does this have to do with
What
being
I'm-
chosen?
No. What I see from the Old Testament reading is that really, and that's why you have interest laws which are.
Do you know who you sound like? You sound like Tommy Robinson.
Okay, no problem.
From my reading of the Quran, all the Muslims want to kill the kuffar. All the Muslims. That's what you sound like.
I'm here to be corrected. That's the difference between me and Tommy, yeah?
But he's not saying anything.
I'm
violent.
saying Stephen can correct
Saying
me.
that you being the chosen people.
I'm just
He's saying
saying
that
a central tenet of the Jewish faith seems to be the chosenness of the Jews, which separates them as an ethnic group above and beyond other ethnic groups.
What does the Quran say about what the Jews being chosen?
So what we believe as Muslims is there's two kinds of verses that are referred to. Yes, we believe that Jews were chosen for a certain time and period, but it doesn't mean in terms of ethnicity that they're any superior or less superior than
You're
every
just
human
showing
being.
your own insecurity then.
Moreover,
We don't believe that.
Hold
don't
on.
believe that though.
We don't believe that. You may believe that we were chosen above other
The
tribes,
Quran also
other
says,
people. We
hold
don't
on,
believe that.
From a theological perspective, the Quran actually offers a challenge to the Jewish people who believe that they are chosen. You know this? Let me tell you the challenge. No, you asked, let me give you the answer. There's two challenges. One is Surah Al-Baqarah and one is Surah Al-Jumu'ah. It says, if you think that you are the chosen people, above and beyond all other peoples, فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتِ. So opt for death. In kuntum sad, if you're in fact truthful. So in other words, if you believe that spiritually you have nothing to fear from the afterlife, why are you in this peasant world? Why don't you ask for death to come and strike you so that you can go
such an
straight?
Islamic
Because
question.
that's not even a Jewish question.
That's not
I
what-
have to tell you this. That is like
Why-
so far
what are
removed
you
from
doing
it.
here, man?
Because the whole point
Ask for
the
death.
whole point of our presence here.
Life is for death. Did you just say?
I said, what? Look, if you think that you don't really hear, you're chosen above and beyond all other peoples. Yeah?
We don't think that. You keep saying
You don't
we
believe-
think that.
you don't believe that?
We don't know.
So you don't,
We-
what is a
Bible
Gentile? What is a
orthodoxy.
Gentile?
Okay, do you want to know the English term, the Hebrew term for a Gentile?
Tell me what Gentile is.
A goy. Do you know what the Jews are called in the Torah?
Go ahead.
A goy. Do you know what goy translates to?
Go ahead.
Nation.
Okay, so what are
Goyim
Gentiles?
is nations.
So what are Gentiles?
Gentiles are just
Is it ever
non-Jews.
used
Okay, so-
derogatory?
Or
Wait,
Jews.
so why
It's just a word that describes
What
nations.
is the distinction? Are you telling me here? Sorry, but because
Okay, so can I explain something to you?
No,
So-
hold on. Even in interest,
So I'm going to answer your question. So
are you? Is there no law, in your opinion, that differentiates a Jew from a Gentile?
There's loads of laws that differentiate, but just like within Islam, there's laws that
yes.
differ than Muslims. But it doesn't
Yes,
mean
but
Muslims
the
are
Jew-
superior.
but no, hold on.
It doesn't mean that
But
Muslims
Jews-
are chosen.
but Jews are ethnic groups. Not you just said it yourself.
No,
the difference. Hold on. The
it's-
difference between
We're-
the Muslim laws and the Jewish laws is that every race is.
Can you
Islam is,
convert-
hold on.
We
Islam
have the you have the Ummah. It's the same.
No, hold on. Listen. Islam is a racially inclusive
So
religion.
is Judaism.
So
Okay, no, no,
You have
tomorrow-
black Jews,
No,
white
I know
Jews,
you have that,
Chinese
but
Jews.
they're not treated very well, are
They're
they?
treated exactly the same.
Oh,
in
really?
religious.
Come on, man. Don't go there, man. Don't go there, man.
The other thing is like if tomorrow you decided that you wanted to convert to Judaism, you
Inshallah,
could-
there's hope for you.
Yeah, you can be redeemed also.
But
All
even
you need
that-
to do is take
even
the
conversion-
Shema,
Can I
say the
finish?
Shahada.
Can I-
but-
can I
even
finish what I want
conversion
to
is
say?
not easy.
So it's not easy. Why? Because I'll tell you why
Yes,
conversion is
go
not
ahead.
easy.
Yes, yes.
Because if you want to accept the truth, you have to accept people that only accept Judaism because they acknowledge it's the truth.
Say this again.
If people are converting to Judaism, it's because they accept that Judaism is true.
Okay.
So there's many people that would convert, for example, where maybe they fell in love with a Jewish girl
Okay.
or a Jewish guy, or there's other reasons. Maybe they think they're going to get more money. I don't know what funny ideas people have about Jews. So that's why we make it difficult. It's also because, and for a different reason as well. That's one reason. The second reason it's difficult is because, and it ties back in with your question, is we believe that God gave basically 7 laws to all of humanity, and they're called the Noahide laws. And to Jews, he gave an extra 606 laws, and there's what called, if you've heard of them, the 613 mitzvot. So basically, we believe
What's that called, sorry?
the 613 mitzvot,
Commandments.
613 commandments. So basically, you as a non-Jew, obviously you have your own religion which forbids you from doing certain things.
Sorry, Stephen, can I just say something? If somebody wants to revert or convert into a religion, shouldn't it be something that should be made easy for them to do? And not something that takes them and
this is
and
what
it's difficult?
this is a conversation within Judaism
And
as well. What you're
also,
saying.
shouldn't it be the intention of that person that you guys should make it your business between them and God?
Let me ask you. Let me
I
ask
wanna-
you.
I wanna ask
a really good
Let-
question.
let-
You're asking good questions, but can I explain? It's a very
In
can I
Islam,
just
sorry,
explain?
in Islam, all we have to do is take our shahada.
No, you can convert. You can convert.
So can I just finish
Can I
answering?
ask you another
Can I finish answering the first question? Okay. So the thing is, like, if you take a non-Jew and we ignore Muslims, we talk about Christians. Right now, when a Christian person, or we can say the same for Muslims, you're allowed to eat shellfish. We're not allowed to eat shellfish. So now, if you decide to go home and have a prawn cocktail, you're not doing anything wrong. But if you become a Jew, then suddenly you'll be sinning against God. And what the problem would be, the reason we don't encourage people to convert, can I finish the point? The reason we don't encourage people unless they're absolutely 100% sincere is because someone who converts and then changes their mind and goes back to their old ways, at the moment, you eating a shellfish sandwich, you're not doing anything wrong. If you become a Jew and you eat shellfish, you've
And
sinned.
the other
Do
use
you mind if I just ask you a question? Let me ask you a straightforward question. This is actually me genuinely asking a question I don't know the answer to. So this is not a chess move. It's genuinely not a...
I want to trust you.
No, it's not. Here's my question. You're saying that, as far as I'm concerned, you're saying that Judaism and the Old Testament corpus, in general, encourages a racial equality.
Yes,
That's what you're saying, yeah?
The words of
Okay.
the Bible,
So
when it describes the creation of Adam, the first human being, it says he was created B'Tselem Elohim, which means in the image of God. So we believe
has free
that
will.
every human being
No problem.
is equal and has
So
an image and the spark of holiness
you would
inside
say
them.
that racism is a bad thing?
Of course.
Okay, no problem.
Goes without saying.
Can I do this seriously? I just want to ask this question, yeah? Can you give me one explicit statement in the Old Testament corpus which says or challenges racism?
I just gave it to you. It says
No,
you
that's
did.
not challenging racism.
Yes, it
It's
does.
saying that Adam was
So
created in the
can
image of
I
God.
just respond to that? Race is a construct of the 20th century, more or less. Yeah.
No, I don't believe that's true. Race has always been part of life.
No, there's been people with different skin colour. But in the Jewish tradition, we were a tribal people. You had different Jews, and particularly in later history, as we spread out, that began to intermarry with different communities and took on different racial characteristics.
No problem,
as
but
you'd
I
say.
just- I was
but
just
with the
want- yeah.
Judaism doesn't say anything for or against race because it's not. I'm going to walk away. This guy just screams at me. It's really
It
annoying.
does the same to me as well.
Just ignore it.
As you are Jewish man, you have to
Is he
do
saying
art,
it?
Torah.
He's not
He
saying
says
When you
gibberish
see
and
the
doesn't say Hebrew.
It's a
Because
shalom.
you're Jews, we don't believe the Bible. We believe the Torah. To the Bible. Why you sitting in the Bible?
because that's an English word that refers
We
to.
don't know, you're wrong, sir. You have to sit in Torah.
Don't engage him,
No,
don't
shut up.
engage him.
You have to sit in Torah who's the Jews.
Yeah, I can spell.
Books, and he can talk about the Bible as a Christian. Mr. Carry on.
Okay.
Thank you.
So as I was asking,
He's
right?
Jewish, I'm Jewish.
I'm just to let you know, right? If you ask me, where does it say in the Quran or the Sunnah that race is not an issue? Where does the Prophet Muhammad challenge race? I can easily get you like extracts of that happening, yeah? Where he challenges racism, like someone saying to someone who's a black man that you're a son of a black woman, like Bilal, and then the Prophet reprimanded him for that, for example. And the Quran says, "Inna akramakum 'inda Allah atqakum." And the Prophet Muhammad says, "La fadla li Arabiyyin."
I want to respond with all those things. I want to like responding to Chris.
وعجم إلى بالتقوى.
No, it's not this, is it? It's not.
There is no
It's not la
difference
fadla. It's la fadla.
between someone who speaks
Anyways.
Arabic, someone who don't speak Arabic.
Thank you, my friend.
Only conditioned by law and condition.
Just forget the guy. So it says here, there's no difference between an Arab and non-Arab, or a black person or a white person. The Prophet said that, yeah? Okay, so anyway, so this is not Quran, but it's hadith of the Prophet Muhammad. At the same time now, these are things I can cite. So if you say, where does the Quran or Sunnah challenge racism? Easy, yeah? There's no difference between a white man or a black man or Arab or non-Arab, except for God consciousness or piety. Now, is there an equivalent in the Old Testament?
Okay, so it does say, because you wouldn't expect, as Joseph said, race is a 20th or 19th century construct.
Why do you
wouldn't-
say it's a-
because you wouldn't expect to find that exact word or a Hebrew
If it was,
translation of it.
you see, look,
because
if
there's
it was 19th century, well, how could the Prophet say it?
Because what you just said is there's no difference between an Arab and a non-Arab.
No,
He
I
didn't-
said no.
He didn't. as I understood your translation of the Arabic, he didn't use the word racism. I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not saying racism.
Yeah,
I'm not
so,
saying, okay,
so
no.
I'm saying you wouldn't expect
I'm just
to find
saying,
that
where
in
does it,
that
where do we
specific
see?
Okay, so I want to give you an example.
Yes.
So it says, don't oppress the stranger, because remember that you were strangers in the land of Israel.
But the stranger is not referring to the race of the person, is it?
No, it's referring to anybody who's not Jewish.
How do we know that?
Because
And don't oppress them is not the same as saying that they're the same in terms of racial equality.
Because you can still be racist, but don't oppress them.
Well, oppression is a type of behaviour.
I'm
Just
just-
don't
my
behave differently to someone.
But
Well, how we
but still, a religion that is pious and pure will teach you to yourself
Okay,
to
so-
not feel that way. Do you understand? Because if you're allowed to feel that way, if your religion tells you to feel that way but don't act it out, then that's still wrong. That's not pure, is it? Do you understand
Well,
what I'm trying to say?
again, it goes into a whole different mindset.
I've
Because
read
our religion
things on the
doesn't really
internet, which I'm
care
sure you have
what
as
you
well,
feel. It's all to
which
do
give
with how you behave.
examples of
Yeah, but a religion should
supposed
care about how you
racism.
feel.
No, of course,
Because
okay.
when-
What I'm saying is,
Islam,
behaviour that
things
makes
like-
that person
okay,
racist.
because we believe
So
that if you
I've read Hadith.
if you
I've
behave in a
read.
certain way, so let's say
Okay,
for
but
example, you have a
what I
problem
want to
with
say,
skin,
I don't
let's
want
talk
to,
about
because my
improving your
modus
character.
operandi is
asking-
not.
Sorry,
My modus
something
operandi
that
is
we
not to attack Islam,
No, but
and I
you-
don't want to make
maybe
enemies.
you're a bit
And
stingy.
most of the
I'm
places
not
I
saying you
read
are.
this is places
Someone
like
can be a bit
answering
stingy,
Islam
what's the way to
and
change
people
that?
who
If
have
you
a very
behave like a
strong
generous person.
Islamic agenda.
But not incrementally. Maybe they
But
give away
what I wanted to say,
20p one
what I
day.
wanted to say
Next
is
week they give away
an
50p
absence of
and keep
something
going up, and eventually when you
isn't
behave as a generous person,
evidence of
then you'll
something else.
start to think like
I'm
a
not saying it
generous
is.
person. And our
So
religion believes
we're
that
saying
not
that the
arguing
proof,
with me.
the proof
I'm not
will have
saying
an
it's that.
impact on
our
how you
proof
feel
you
rather than the
rejected.
other way
You
around.
didn't like it, but that is the traditional Jewish
No, I'm
understanding.
just saying.
The traditional Jewish understanding is all men are considered B'Tselem Elohim, and we're all equal. And it goes as far as saying all
What does it
people,
say?
because
What does it say
all.
racist?
No, so it doesn't talk about race. I'm trying to answer it. Trying to answer it. It says all people are equal, and all people that do good deeds go to Olam Haba, the world to come.
Okay, if you don't-
So you don't have to be Jewish to have a portion in Jannah. In Islam, you have to.
There's no Jannah.
There's Olam Haba.
Yeah, so which is not Jannah.
Well, it's,
Jannah is...
Jewish, then we don't need no one to come our religion.
No.
No.
is it Astaghfirullah? What's the expression?
In Jesus'
Ya Rab, Ya Rab.
no one to come to our religion.
So hey, look, as far as I know, in the principles of jurisprudence in our religion, yeah, in for example transactional things, everything is haram, so everything is halal, yeah, which means allowed, except that which is mentioned as haram. So if, for example, if I wanted to eat a prawn shellfish sandwich, yeah, I could do that in Islam because there's nothing that really says it's haram, yeah, it's wrong. Now I'm not sure how it works in your in Jewish law, but I suspect
Similar process.
it's a similar process, no problem.
We have a specific prohibition
Yeah.
that we are not allowed to eat from the sea
Right.
anything that doesn't have fins
So
and scales.
for example,
Muslims say that as well.
yeah, I know.
Hanafis say
Hanafis
that,
Hanafis. But I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about, so for example, if Judaism or if the Old Testament doesn't say something is prohibited, then by virtue of, by extension, we should say that actually it's allowed. Yeah?
But first of all, I don't know. You
Does
can
this
make
make
that
sense?
as a general
Positive
principle.
legalism.
As a general
Yeah.
principle, but what you have to also understand that there's actually 4 layers of and 4 different ways of reading that. I don't know how it works in terms of like understanding the
unfortunately,
Quran.
more Israel
In
Palestine,
terms
it's just religion
in
against
terms of reading and understanding the Torah and the Tanakh, the text of what Christians call the Old Testament, we have 4 different layers of reading and understanding. There's been built that. So literally, it may say, you may look through the text and not find something literal there, but in the further commentaries and further understanding, it will be explicitly referenced. It will say this passage refers to X, Y, or Z, depending on whatever the principle is.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but you agree of this principle of legalism, which states at its core that actually everything in terms of transactions, not in terms of worship, so it's quite similar to what we believe in, is allowed until it's explicitly mentioned that it's not allowed, prohibited. Yeah, is this what I understand? Fine. So if that is the case, then unless we are to find something in the Old Testament corpus, yeah, that says specifically that racism or differentiation of people based on race is wrong, morally incorrect, or there's some kind of reprimand from Moses or any other of the other prophets, then we are to assume that racism is an acceptable attitude.
Okay, so I reverse that back and flip that back to you and say, anywhere in the Quran does it say that you can't have relations with a girl who is 13 years old?
Wait a minute, what are we talking about? Racism or
No. The
13
reason
years old?
because you're
No,
talking
no,
about
hold on,
positive
13
legalism.
years old.
The reason I'm saying it because I'm not going to say that all Muslims
No, but
believe that they can have
we'll
relations.
talk about that, no problem. But focus on what I'm saying.
no,
Then we'll put that as an asterisk.
No,
we'll put it in the bottom footnotes, and we'll address
It's
it.
relevant.
We'll
It's
come back to
relevant.
it.
The reason I'm
It's
bringing-
very relevant,
the
but
reason
let's
I'm-
address it
the reason-
secondarily.
Okay, what Joseph's trying to say is that you're essentially, in philosophical terms, trying to have your cake and eat it. That you're
No,
trying,
I'm
hold
not
on.
talking
You're
about
trying-
race.
You're trying to talk
The whole
about.
discussion-
You're trying to say
you're trying
that
to
is-
apply a principle
No.
in one area that you don't
You're
apply
trying
in
to
another.
you're
hold
trying
on.
to show that in Islam, in
I'll
Islam,
answer your question.
you're trying to say
No,
within
but you're
Islam.
answering a question with a question.
You're trying to say within Islam.
It's a very Jewish thing, by the way. To
Yeah,
answer a question with a question.
You're trying to say. You're trying to say within Islam. There is a precedent that there's a law which forbids racism, and you're saying because you haven't found an explicit mention of discriminating against race, that's racism is permissible within Judaism.
I'm not. I'm asking.
And we're saying it categorically isn't
Okay, can you give me
because
the
of the
evidence?
concept of B'Tselem Elohim. All men are created and equal. So when you go through Jewish, can I extend that?
Yeah, of course.
When you go through Jewish law, for instance, there's laws to do with whenever there's a law, for instance, it's forbidden to steal. And it's forbidden to steal from a Jew or a non-Jew because we believe B'Tselem Elohim, everyone is created in the image of God. What
No,
you're there,
but-
can I finish my point? The only instance where this is overruled, where a law that applies to a Jew no longer applies to a Gentile, is where it explicitly states that. So, for instance, usury, which is the one you brought up, ribbit,
Interest.
which is interest. They call it. You mentioned interest being charged on a loan. It explicitly states that you can't charge a Jew. If it didn't say you can't charge a Jew, then it would apply to all people. So with Jewish law, unless it explicitly states this is only for Jews,
Jewish by ethnicity.
Jewish by religion.
Jewish by religion.
Judaism's a really interesting. So Jews we
It's
believe we're a people, we're a land, and we're a religious system like a Sharia or a Deen. So it's those three things. Religion is almost like a Christian concept, and it doesn't really apply to us.
Can you guys treat me as an ignorant here? Yeah, in the sense that, let's say you guys are the knowledge, and I am you guys are the teacher now, and I am the student. Okay? So don't attack me because when you attack a student, he doesn't learn. Okay? I'm asking a simple question.
Okay.
B'Tselem Elohim.
Yeah. Look at
B'Tselem
that.
Elohim. Which was man is created in the image of God. He translated it as man is all men are equal. That translation is nowhere found in any of the English Bibles.
Okay, so
Hold
first
on.
of all, the English translations,
No, but do you mind
Christian
if I-
translations are notoriously
No problem.
unreliable.
You're talking about Christianity
No,
rather
but
than
no issues.
Judaism.
Not even. I mean, I would ask you to tell me where any rabbinical exegete, any rabbinical exegete has said B'Tselem Elohim entails, yes, that Jews, as an religious grouping, are equal to, for example, Arabs. Is there anyone that said that?
Almost every rabbi, it's right down to the concept where we have Olam Haba, the world to come. We say it's not. We're the only religion that says that anybody can go to. Everyone can go to paradise as long as they're a good person.
Hold on.
Whereas within Islam, it discriminates.
No, I'm not talking.
With-
I'm not talking. Please. I'm not talking. First and foremost, let's not conflate the word paradise with what we believe in. Like Jannah is not the same. You don't believe like as far. Once again, you can correct me, yeah. But as far as my reading of the Old Testament goes, I have not seen that there's anywhere in the Old Testament where heaven or hell are explicitly mentioned.
No, they're not.
They're not.
That's an
So-
actual principle of Judaism.
Thank you.
So I explain to you why it's not mentioned, because so that we serve out of love for God and not because of the reward.
No problem, excellent. But then you cannot say explicitly that such places exist. Like, we believe in Muslims and Christians believe in
I'm
heaven.
sorry, our religion is more than the Old Testament or the Tanakh. It's also the Talmud.
Yeah, I understand. But even then,
But it's all over the Talmud.
no, hold on. But we're talking. The Talmud is the legal rulings and consensus
Not
of
only,
the.
not only that.
Yeah, but
No,
is it
you've
not?
been listening to my videos because mine's a fringe opinion within Judaism, and that's what I like. My
So what is it then?
So it contains the oral law, which was given to Moses at Sinai. It's the court notes from the legal rulings, which it definitely is. But the fact that you responded with that is quite, Baruch Hashem, I've made Muslims my monodean. It's sorry, Jewish joke. Jewish politics. It's the Talmud. It contains the oral law, the court rulings. It contains a lot of agadot, sayings and parables from the rabbis of the time of the Mishnah.
Explaining historical events, like for example, what happened to Moses after he left Egypt before he redeemed the Jewish people, where he lived. He went to Africa, for example.
And so within there, it talks about
stories about
a lot.
information about the patriarchs.
And the legal rulings, etc. Everyone would agree with that.
And that's largely where we get Olam Haba from.
No problem. But what I'm saying to you here is, taking a step back and asking the original question. I can cite you no less than 3 or 4 different places in the Quran and Sunnah, or 5 or 6, a handful, a dozen of places, where it explicitly mentions that being offensive to someone based on race is something from Jahiliyyah, or what you would call pre-Islamic ignorance.
Maybe that's because it's a problem that the Muslims suffered from and the Jews didn't.
No, hold on.
So you didn't have to mention it, didn't have to be mentioned.
Please. I'm just saying. Pre-Islamic ignorance, right? So here, I think racism
That's what I'm saying.
No, racism is something which is universal.
Okay,
yeah?
so how do you explain to me? Because you said that,
So I just want to know. I was just wondering.
Okay, so you said that Islam's opposed to. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an expert in Islam.
No problem. We can correct each other. That's the whole process of learning.
So, as I understand it, in Islamic jurisprudence, a non-Muslim
Yes.
is not able to give evidence in a court against a Muslim. Is that correct?
So here, before we move on to the distinctions between Muslims and non-Muslims, the premise I've put forward is that races are all equal.
Okay.
Like one individual race, one person of one individual race is not higher or lower than another person of any individual race.
Okay.
So me as an Egyptian, for instance,
Okay.
And by the way, I've done this ancestry test.
Okay.
You know the thing where you go,
Yeah.
and I had 5%. I had 5% Jewish. I had 5%.
That's why you're so smart.
But I also had, I had a good mix. I had like almost 20% West African. And these things. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, having said this, right? I was gonna say to you that actually I think it was 24%, or I can't remember what it was, but not of Jewish, of the West African and African, some sorts of that. What I was gonna say was that here, if you agree that discriminating on someone based on their race, or treating someone differently, or thinking that you're better than them because they're from a different country of origin, which was the result of the accident of birth, that's a bad thing and it ought to be challenged. And my question is, if that's the premise, if we both agree on that same premise, because you can say, I don't agree with that premise, and it's in your right to say that, and you can corner me by saying, prove it objectively outside of a religious framework, which will be difficult.
Okay.
However, I agree with that premise. If you agree with that same premise, then I would say to you, listen, the Quran and the Sunnah are very clear that there's no superiority of a black person over a white person, or an Arab over a non-Arab. And the Prophet challenged directly people that were anti-Jew. Did you know that? For example, Hafsa, who was the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the Prophet Muhammad married a Jew, he married a Jew called Safiya bint Huyay. He married.
Khadija bint Watba.
Safiya bint
This is the one after he executed her husband.
When he married Safiya bint Huyay,
This is the one after the war when he executed.
he didn't execute her
husband.
Her husband was.
That's a law.
But hold on.
That law was.
Let's not get into
That's a
tangents.
good
No,
example.
I'm making a point.
Actually, someone just showed us a really good point.
No problem.
Who was Moses' wife?
We got an example of what you asked.
Let me just finish.
You know,
When? No, hold on.
Moses'
No,
wife
Moses
was a black
married a
woman.
black woman.
No issues. No, and we believe Moses was black, so that makes it even better. And there's no problem. Anyway,
Who's we? The Muslims.
Yeah, Muslims believe he was
Muslims
black.
believe Moses was black.
Yeah, dark skin, black. Not like white like you. No way.
So
No prophet was like your color.
So was Ishmael?
David
No. Was Muhammad also black?
Because they are two, we are two.
Was
You have to know, but at the time, just Moses coming and Jesus coming, slave is not black. At the time, slave is discrimination to sell people. It doesn't matter white or black or nothing to do with
I'm
it.
just doing something else here as well.
So let me just. So when Hafsa said something about Safiya, he said to her, she said to her, oh, you're Jewish. You are the son. You're the daughter of a Jewish person. So the Prophet he corrected Hafsa, and he corrected this what you would call the modern anti-Semitism. And he said, actually, you are the daughter of a prophet and you are tahta nabi. You're also under the prophet.
Tahta is under.
Yes, tahta. Yeah. So you're also you're married to a prophet and you're the daughter of a prophet. Like going back to Harun. The same thing with Bilal ibn Rabah, who was a black man, who was attacked by Abu Dhal al-Ghifari, who was an Arab. Who
So
said
is this the Quran or from
this
the
is hadith. So we believe in the hadith and the Quran, both of those corpuses. So when he was attacked by him, Abu Dhal al-Ghifari was attacked him and said, "You're a son of a black woman." The Prophet was very angry with him and he corrected him and said, "This is from the Jahiliyyah of the pre-Islamic Arabs." And now, so he corrected the racism. So not only, and the Quran says, "Inna akramakum 'inda Allahi atqakum," and that's certainly Allah. And the Quran says, he says that he talked about the different colors of the creations. There's min al-nasi wad-dawabi wal-an'ami mukhtalifun alwanuhu kadhalik. That from the different people as well, you have different colors. Wa inna ma yakhsha Allah min ibadihi al-ulama. That certainly the ones who have piety of Allah, they're the ones who fear God, and they're the ones who know. So in other words, there's enough in the Islamic corpus, in the Quran, the Sunnah, to show that racism, or the idea of thinking yourself superior over another race, is an abhorrent, ignorant, pre-Islamic idea. Now I'm just asking, is there an equivalent in the Old Testament like that?
Yes, Numbers 12. Can I read this for you?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Numbers 12. Miriam and Aaron, Moses' brother, opposed Moses over him marrying a Cushite. A Cushite is a black person. It's in the Torah.
Yeah, from
it's
Cush.
not
From Cush.
Yeah, Cush.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a proof for you.
No,
Miriam was banished for 7 days for being racist, basically.
Okay, no, but here, this is talking about marriage, yeah? So all we can extrapolate from this is that as a Jew, you're allowed to marry a Cushite. And by the way, a lot of Kushites are Jews anyways. No?
No.
If you have
In this case, she wasn't a Jew. She wasn't a Jew. She wasn't a Jew.
Okay, anyway, what this shows is you can marry a Kushite, and in the same book, Numbers,
they discriminate against her for not being a Jew and for being a Cushite, a black woman.
Okay, so where does it say, don't talk about her being a black woman?
Listen.
That's what.
No, where does it say? Can you read it?
So again,
Look.
Mohammed.
He married a Cushite.
No, let me read it. Let me read it. Sorry.
Okay.
Let me read it out. Let me read it out.
Sorry.
So
When
it
it
says
says a
Miriam and Aaron began to
Cushite,
talk
it's
against
defined
Moses.
as a black woman.
Hold on. Let me read it.
So you're looking for something explicit, but
Is
can I
Aaron
just say
the
something?
prophet here, yeah?
Yeah, it's
Aaron is a
Moses'
prophet.
brother.
No problem. And you believe he was a prophet as well?
Yeah.
Okay, no issues. Can I just read it out? Because he made a
No,
point.
because I just want to make a point before you read it out.
No,
Because you're telling us like
Something
You're
explicit.
basically building a straw man, Mohammed.
No,
What we're
I'm just
telling
saying,
you, we're
something
telling you,
as explicit.
We're telling you what a mainstream Jewish
Jew-
belief is.
Jewish-
I'm not saying there aren't Jewish racists.
Judaism
Of course,
views-
there are some Muslim racists as well, I'm sure.
I'm not talking
Judaism
about
views.
Muslim races. I know they exist.
Judaism
I'm
views.
talking about Judaism.
Yeah, so we're
Judaism
talking
views
about the religion.
Judaism
Yes,
views
the
the
religion.
world as tribes in this period, and the Cushites were a tribe. The Israelites were a tribe, but they were made up of 12 tribes within that. And so one of the characteristics, racial characteristics, so to speak, of the Cushites were they were black. And so that Judaism doesn't see colour. This is why it's so frustrating when I argue with black Hebrews or black Israelites. It's because
explain to him that is nothing called Judaism. Judaism has been made by Golda Meir. We call them al-Yahudiyya, Deen al-Yahudi.
It was actually Golda Meir that wrote the
even
Torah.
exists by Golda Meir. She make it like we have IC, we have the shit now, we have the bullshit now. Same. He's been make it by Golda Meir. Nothing called in the Torah.
And you know that
nothing called Judaism. That is not al-Yahudiyya. Jewish Yahudiyya. Judaism, nothing to do at all in the Torah, in the book of Torah. Open the Torah and you read it. Judaism is only being dined by Golda Meir, being dined by the bad internationals, or people, the riches, they want to make money after they have a religion. Thank you. And the end, he is Jewish, I can talk to him, I believe in not Jewish. I really, it doesn't matter if
Who was a man who was Jewish before, so they wanted him to
and
make,
the end, who's
to
the
basically
father?
deal with the matter
It's
rather than the
Abraham.
prophet, thinking that he would be more
Al-Khalil.
just.
Who's
But he
the
gave them
cousin?
that punishment
His
because
heart
that was
and
the
his
punishment
mind.
according to their law.
The city Jews,
Because that was the
cousin
punishment
of
according to
They're
their law.
lovely
So
people.
that's why he gave them that punishment. But
Thank you.
So Miriam was given leprosy in punishment for her racism.
Where does it say
And
that?
she was, brother, look, I'm not going to make it up. I know you're going to
I want to see
I'll show you.
statements.
I'll show you.
I just want to know. Yeah. Show me where it says.
All right. So he was angry at them for opposing Moses for marrying a Cushite, an Ethiopian, a black woman. Right. So that defines her as a black woman, Cushite. Now the punishment. We got Moses. Let me just find that. When a cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. So she was given leprosy.
No, but hold on, that doesn't show.
Mohammed, can I just say one thing?
No, but it doesn't say.
Can I say, Mohammed, you said that you had a question and you genuinely wanted
leprosy.
to... Mohammed, you said you had a question and you genuinely wanted to know the answer. But I actually don't think that was genuine.
What? No, I don't know.
No, I think you were just basically that was an instance of attempting what I consider religious supremacy. In the sense that you said, can you show me anywhere in the Torah? Can I finish? And you then said, look what it says in the Quran. It talks all about racism and how you can't be racist. And can you find that in your book? And that wasn't a sincere question. That was basically religious supremacy.
Okay, if you believe
given to you,
no, but hold on, Joseph. That's fine. If you want to believe it's religious supremacy, and if it wasn't sincere, that can be your opinion. It's not a problem.
If I want to say something,
Okay,
We've answered the question.
we answered the question from a Jewish perspective.
We told you what the mainstream Jewish position
all of
is.
you guys have tried to answer the question, and I'm happy.
And we've tried, and you've won because you're the religious supremacist, and Islam comes out on top. MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah.
I'm happy that you come to agree with that. Anyways, on that note, guys, I think we're done. Thank you. I'll see you guys later.
That wasn't sincere what you did there.
What?
That was you attempting dawah.
Yeah, of course. That's why I'm here.
And this mic's still on though.
Yeah, no, I'm doing dawah.
You can edit it out. Don't worry.
No. He's
He's neutral. They're neutral.